No.
I have 7 o'clock. Pleased to have with us this evening Pastor Lori Nichols of the House Church. We go back quite a ways. I think we first went to church in this township when we were teens together, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So, her husband Tim, I don't know if he's ever researched the family trees, but just a different branch of Nichols. Tim has quite a lot of relation around here. I don't have so much. So we'll ask Pastor to lead us in prayer, and if she has anything else, and we'll have the pledge.
All right, I'm going to read a scripture. It's Psalms 115, and starting with verse 14. May the Lord richly bless both you and your children. May you be blessed by the Lord, who made heaven and earth. And this is the verse that stood out to me for tonight. The heavens belong to the Lord, but he has given the earth to all humanity. So if the righteous people do not take care of the earth, then unrighteous people will. And so that shows us that we have to step up. Heavenly Father, you have given the earth into the hands of man to take care of. So God, I ask in Jesus' name that you give each person your wisdom to take care of the business of Adams Township. If there be any obstacles stopping your will from being done, then I use my authority to speak to the mountains to be removed in Jesus' name. Give each person present, God, a heart for the community in which they live to do what is best and right for all the people who live here, not just what they want, but help them to think about everyone involved. And come into this meeting now, God, in your glorious presence. They wanted prayer here, so they're welcoming you to be here, God. Let truth prevail, not just here, but in our whole state of Michigan. And we lift your name up, Jesus, to be the Lord over this meeting, our township, our state, and even though men are in charge, God. And we pray over everyone involved tonight that their minds would be sound with not any confusion, their hearts would be right, they'd think clearly, and each person here would be led by you, God, in every decision and every act. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you. Motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll support.
Thank you, Randy. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have Commissioner Brad Benson with us this evening. We missed you last month, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I was running late working, and I elected since it was like 7:30 to head ransom. So nice to be back with you this month. A few updates from the county. First of all, I'd like to give you a follow-up on our 800 megahertz radio project. We've been talking about that for a number of months now. You may recall back around the first year we hired an engineering firm. They did a study of what the needs were for the county for all of our public safety agencies, and they came back with a system, at least a plan for that. So we went out for bids. We went to Motorola. Motorola is the vendor for the state of Michigan, and that basically the system was designed originally for the Michigan State Police and has been deployed now out of Michigan's 83 counties. That system is in 76 of the 83 counties in the state of Michigan. We also reached out to Kenwood JVC. Kenwood JVC was the vendor that built the system that actually just went online about 3 weeks ago over in Branch County. That particular system is not part of the state system, and so it will interface with it, but it actually requires another bank of radios in order to be able to interface with it. Plus, once you leave your county, with 800, you key up your radio and it hits the state tower if you're a part of the MPSC system. However, if you are not, like with Branch County, that once they get out of the range of their towers, they can't talk to them. So anyways, we did have proposals from the two vendors. We had those at our last meeting. Kenwood's proposal came in at $8.8 million, and Motorola's came in at $10 million. And again, the Motorola proposal, that is actually the state system. So we will be looking at those two, which one we might adopt at our meeting tomorrow. And so hopefully next month we'll have a follow-up. I'm sure the news media will pick up on that as well. It is the recommendation from our radio committee that we established to look at that, reach out and get the bids to go with the Motorola system because of the uniformity through the state. We also have received a letter from the police organization for the county, all of the county police agencies, including our sheriff's department, that have recommended that we go with the Motorola system as well. So, and that will be my recommendation tomorrow to the full board of commissioners. In the same vein with emergency services, any one of us that has a device that can access 911 or central dispatch, there's a surcharge on that, and that's approved by the voters. Last year that was at $2.60, and I'm happy to report to you that 911 is in good financial condition, and there was no need to increase that fee for the coming year. That the year on that starts in July and runs through June of the next year, and so consequently there will be no change for the next year with that surcharge. We did sell a lot we had over in Pittsford. You may recall there was a building in the hamlet of Pittsford, and that had been in a tax foreclosure several years ago. Individual had bought it and had been ordered by the court to tear the building down because it was actually endangering the street. There were pieces of brick, pieces of the building falling out on the street, plus the two adjoining properties. Well, this individual was probably not the best financial decision for him. He actually was a participant in our county drug court, and he thought that probably this wasn't a great idea. He was now under court order to tear this building down, so he gave it to somebody else that was a participant in the drug court. So basically, nobody could handle dealing with that property. So the county did step up. We have a surplus of funds in our building inspection account. We did assume that property, the owner of it quit claimed it, deeded it to the county. We tore it down. It cost about $92,000 to demolish that building. Not very big, about 20 feet wide, about 30 feet long, but had asbestos in it. And of course, we had to have environmental remediation for that while we tore it down and also dispose of the materials. And so anyway, we did tear the building down. We then exposed it to the public. It was up on the county website by sealed bid, minimum bid of $5,000. One of the adjacent property owners did bid. They were actually the only bidder on it. So we have sold that lot now. So it's now no longer in the county's possession. We did receive our annual report from our county medical examiner. Always interesting information about the deaths in the county. Last year, in 2021, we had 448 deaths. That was actually up 16% from 2020, the first year of COVID. The medical examiner investigated 136 of those deaths, And I have a copy of this year's report that the ME submits to the Board of Commissioners. This will also be available under the Public Safety tab on the Commission website or on the county's website. But if you have a printed copy and if anybody else would like that in electronic form, I would be happy to email it to you. Like I say, we'll get it up on the website. You can have a look at that as well. At our last meeting, we did vote to move forward with repairs to our historic courthouse's roof. You may recall that last fall we were leaking severely, actually starting to get some damage to the plaster in the upstairs of that building. And so we contacted a company that specializes in restoration and renovations on historic buildings such as our courthouse. The barrel tile roof that is on there was actually put on in the early 1970s. And that replaced the original copper roof that went back when that building was built right at the turn of the last century, back around 1898. So the problem is not the tiles. They are actually in pretty good shape. It is the underlayment underneath it that has failed after 50 years. And so this company, their proposal to us was that they would remove the scaffolding up around the building, they would house and then lift down to the ground all of those barrel tiles off of the roof, and then they will repair any of the wood underlayment and then the material that goes underneath that as well, plus put ice guard all the way around the eaves on it to prevent ice dams from backing up on the top. We've come a long way with roofs in 50 years, and anybody who's done any construction is probably aware of that. At the same time, you may recall back in about 2008, we put an addition on the building to house an elevator and add 2 handicap restrooms. And that made the building really usable for probably another 100 years by putting that elevator. However, it has a shingle roof on it. And shingle roofs today have probably a 20 to 25-year lifespan. So we felt it would be a pretty good idea while we were doing the roof on the rest of the courthouse, because we're probably going to have to replace the roof on that addition in the foreseeable future. We felt it would be a good idea. So we're going to have the same type of barrel tile that is on the rest of the building placed on that. We'll also be restoring the gutters. The gutters are actually copper, and as anybody's priced anything made out of copper these days, pretty expensive stuff. So, but we will be moving forward that to help preserve that building. And obviously, if you don't have a good roof, the rest of the stuff inside is not so great as well. You may have heard some reports about road commission. There are 6 townships within my commissioner district, and the general feeling throughout the district, and very obviously throughout the county, is dissatisfaction with the performance of the county road commission in the last several years. And so we've had a number of constituents who have asked the Board of Commissioners what we might do to help improve that situation. So one of our commissioners took that on his task. He's actually our liaison to that board, and did a little research of the law, and there are 2 things that a Board of Commissioners can do to affect the makeup of a county road commission. The first is road commissions can either be 3 members or 5 members. And Hillsdale County has a 3-member road commission board. The problem with that is that pesky little thing, the Open Meetings Act. Because when you have a 3-member board, 2 of you can't talk to each other. You can't pick up the phone and talk on the telephone. You can't email back and forth. Outside the scope of your meeting, you cannot communicate with each other about road commission or whatever public body's business. So by increasing them, that would allow some discussion outside, and also perhaps allow for some committee structure outside of their full board, and possibly work towards some better outcomes. The other thing that can happen that the Board of Commissioners can do is under legislation that was adopted about 10 years ago, they can dissolve a county road commission and absorb it as a department of county government. Now in Michigan, there are 2 types of road commissions that are elected. There are elected and there are appointed, So in some counties, the road commission is appointed by the Board of Commissioners, and they serve those same 6-year terms at the advice and consent of the Board of Commissioners. The other are elected road commissions. And since the early 1970s, we've elected road commissioners in Hillsdale County. Road commissioners are elected for a 6-year term. and they're staggered. So they come, one slot comes up every 2 years. So this year, we will have Bob Godfrey seat up for election. Then 2 years later, another seat will be up for election. And then 2 years later, and then it rotates back around at the end of that 6-year term for the first person. So consequently, with an elected board of the road commission, we can't just dissolve it. The people have to do it because you elect them in the first place. So what a board of commissioners can do is that they can place on the ballot, after holding 2 public hearings, the question, should the road commission be dissolved and the duties of that be absorbed by the county board of commissioners? And of course, county commissioners, they're elected by geographic district. In other words, that I have a geographic district, and my 4 fellow commissioners, they all have areas they represent. The other is that currently, we're elected for 2 years, and like your board, we're all elected at the same time. So if there's dissatisfaction with the public with the job that the board of commissioners is doing, or a township board is doing, they're all elected at the same time, and a group can work to try and elect people who might change the direction that they're going in. So those are some of the ideas of why bringing it into the board of commissioners might change some outcomes. So in order to do either of those things, we have to have 1 public hearing for the proposal of expanding it. We have to have 2 public hearings, 28 days apart, for the proposal of placing it on the ballot. So at our last commission meeting, we did schedule those public hearings, and so we are going to have 2 on both questions. So the first will be at our April 26th meeting, and it will be at 10 a.m. We meet at 9 o'clock, our meeting starts at 9, the public hearing will convene at 10, and then at 10:30, the first will be on the question of expanding, and then at 10:30, we will take up the question of eliminating the elected road commission and it being absorbed by the board of commissioners. We felt it was important that the public have the opportunity to have the maximum amount of input in that. And because we do meet through the day, because it's the business day to do the county's business, we also chose to have a public hearing in the evening. So we will have a public hearing the following night, Wednesday, the 27th, in the county office building, same place the board of commissioners meets. And that will be at 7 p.m. on the first question and 7:30 p.m. on the second question. Now we have to have 2 public hearings that are 28 days apart on the second. So based on what we hear from the public, we'll decide if we need to have that second hearing another 28 days out. So if you have input on that, I have no strong feelings one way or the other on either proposal. What I do know is there's a great deal of dissatisfaction right now. And hopefully that we can come up with some solution that might make it better. And so therefore, if you do have input and you are unable to attend, my contact information, I know the board has it. It's on the county website, and members of the public that are here tonight. And I'm pretty easy to find, usually at Brad's Appliance. You're welcome to call the store and leave a message for me there if I'm not in. So,
Can I ask a question quick while we're on
Yes.
the topic? If it were decided to expand the board to 5-member,
Right.
I believe you appoint. Could you elaborate on that at all?
no, they actually would be elected at the next regularly scheduled election.
Okay, so it wouldn't take effect immediately. You'd be looking at a 5-member board at the next election.
Right. Well, not the next regular, not for their board, but so basically, timeline-wise, you'd be looking at November election to take office on January 11th. And they would stagger those. So like one would be a 6-year and one would be a 4-year, so that they wouldn't both expire at the same time. You still would have two commissioners that would expire at the same time. So, but yes, it would be elected.
Thank you.
So, and same process. Couple other things I did want to present to you this evening. The clerk or the treasurer may have received notification from the Michigan Tax Commission that they are now going to require you to have on a website assessing information. So basically be able to see the property tax cards. So, and townships are going to be responsible for placing it. So if Adams Township has a website, great, you need to get it updated. However, the question came up last month at Rezoning Township. We, the Board of Commissioners, were completely unaware of it, and that this was a new requirement. And very honestly, my home township, Woodbridge Township, you know, we're barely able to get the internet at all down there, so we don't have a township web. And very honestly, a great number of townships in the county don't. So went back, talked to Nick Wheeler in Equalization, talked to Dave Holcomb down in our county IT department, and the County of Hillsdale is going to offer to any township that does not maintain their own website at no cost to you, because it's your money anyways, we will offer the ability to have that information for your township. So, if you need to have that done, and since I'm hearing that you don't have a website, someone from your board will need to contact Nick Wheeler in Equalization and say, we don't have the ability to do that ourselves, will you please do that for us? And they will walk you through whatever it is that they will need to get that up and in place for you. So, again, it's one of those things, those wizards in Lansing Board of Commissioners, about the veterans exemptions. We have a number of fully disabled veterans in Hillsdale County, and the state of Michigan allows them to be exempted from property taxes. And so they apply for those property tax exemptions, and they don't pay any property. However, special assessments like drain assessments, they're still responsible for them, okay? You're out at the lake and you've got a weed control assessment, you got to pay those, okay? So consequently, what could basically happen is a veteran receives a tax bill, looks at it, says, well, I'm exempt, wires it up, throws it in the wastebasket. Next year comes, tax bill, wires it up, year 3 comes, tax foreclosure. Could be for something silly like a $15 drain assessment. Last year we identified about 25 of those. So I brought a resolution to the Board of Commissioners last year that our equalization department every year would present a report to the Board of Commissioners on any of those, so that then we could, in concert with our Veterans Department, reach out to them and say, you really need to get these paid, and if you financially still can't afford to pay those, we'll help you do it. We also, though, interestingly, on that, things like churches or Camp Mishindo that are tax exempt, they also are tax exempt on general property taxes, but not on those special assessments. So we actually are creating 2 lists, and I'm happy to report to you, because I literally just got it this evening, this year's list. There are no veterans in your township. From what I can see, there are no tax exempt properties within Adams Township. And that list, that there were like 21 veterans last year, there are 3 for the entire county this year. So we obviously, we reached that population, we got the message across to them, they understand that, hey, we're making some progress on that. So I was actually delighted to number 1, see that we've reduced the number, and number 2, that within your township, Jefferson, has got a few churches over there that have got some small drain assessments. So, but pretty interesting. And that concludes my report for this evening, unless you have questions for me.
As far as the condition of the fact of having, is that due to road commissioners or due to lack of workers to work on those roads?
It's a multifaceted, I mean, the road commission has significantly less employees than they did 30 years ago. I think they're high on close to 80, and they've been around 50 for a number of years now. We solved the money problem. I mean, this year, $1 million fund balance. So, we changed some things with funding a few years ago. Money really isn't the issue, other than the fact for the local match. Okay, so like Rezoning Township, my township, Woodbridge Township, we actually passed while I was supervisor there, a mill for road that generates about $36,000. But when you need to pay 70%, and the road commission pays 30, maybe pays 70, you got to have something to work with. So, as far as the number of employees, dust control. Dust control not getting done till August. Well, why don't they get dust control? Because they don't get the road straight. You know, I mean, I can remember when I lived in Adams Township, that we got 2 applications. We got one before Memorial Day, and then if you paid for a second one, Pat shake your head, you know, you come down to your house, bring you a check. We used to get 2. Yeah, right, you pay for one, but you get one Memorial Day, and then you get the second one before 4th, and we can't get that, and that's outside Denver, that's not even the county's insurance. So we're not getting that done until August. You know, just all the way around.
Before you take any more, was that answered sufficiently?
Yeah.
Let me jump in here, and if you have a further question, you can continue. I'd like to counter to some degree, you seem to convey they've got enough money. They were in the black, and that's a good thing. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, nearly $1 million of that was earmarked for new equipment that was ordered and coming. Am I correct on that?
They actually have a line item, Mr. Supervisor, and so yes, they did have some, but they had still a couple $1 million over and above that. That was over and above the money that was set aside for equipment.
Right.
And they have, you know, they've upgraded the road graders over the last several years. They bought a bunch of new trucks, whereas previously they were scraping to come up with the money to buy one new truck.
Well, unless they're lying to us, they say that their average age of the fleet is still 29 years, or maybe that was.
Maybe.
Those would be, if you guys are into statistics, that would be worth checking out.
Right.
You know, I tend to feel like you that the problem is multifaceted, but I also feel like we're falling behind on our roads. So they might have had a couple $1 million, but they've also got 1,200 mile of roads to take care of. And if it costs upwards of $1 million, and it wouldn't improving their roads, but let's just say if it did, that's $1 billion our county needs to have good roads. Not ain't gonna happen all at once, but, so I think we have probably in addition to any problems that we have at our local road commission, that would be the way to fund it. You know, we happen to have a little money here, but we could deal through it just like that if we started fixing roads. So, could take it out.
Again, this, to me, it sounds like more of an issue of not people to work the roads.
But that comes back from management issue. Because it's not a new problem.
It seems like it's gradually getting worse and worse.
I'm sorry?
The roads, it seems like they're gradually getting worse and
They,
worse.
and then, you know, again, that speaks to, you know, what I'm hearing from my constituents, what can we do about this because we're not getting it done. In fact, it seems like we're falling down. So they've asked the board of commissioners, myself included, what can we do? And so these are 2 possibilities that we can look at to try and change the direction of the road commission.
It's just, I made a comment to them like this, I said, we don't need more chiefs, we need more engines.
Right, yeah. Again, that's a management decision.
I think that's a question you better put to Mr. Lanninger if he was to come to one of our meetings.
Yeah.
That may be an invite, since he doesn't show.
Well, he was minus last month, and he's not here yet this evening, so.
And yeah, I think he has another unit in the hands prior to your meeting, so he may be here tonight. I know he was at Woodbridge last week. So. Any other questions?
I have one. Do you know what the deadline is for getting those tax assessing numbers on the website?
I don't have a hard yet question. So, other questions? Right.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna run the ransom in about 10 minutes, but thank you.
All right. Since I don't see Mr. Leininger, we'll proceed to public comment. Please address your comments to the board. Let's not try to talk back and forth between the people here. You're 5 minutes each. Try not to abuse that either, if you will. Try to keep this time, each one, just one comment. If you speak, say what you need, and then we'll move on to the next person. So open the floor for public comment. Mark.
I'd like to review some comments we have concerning the issue we have with property out there. Many do not know what's going on. I've been asked several times what all is going on, so I'm going to try and briefly explain it. Recap what's been going on the past several months regarding which Jan and I are the property that owns around us. To rezone this property from commercial to light industrial. We have owned the property for 27 years. We have a buyer interested in the property. He would be a manufacturer of walls and trusses for the house building industry. And if you're hiring people, you know how it is to get that. This property will not ever qualify for heavy industrial. So stamping and that kind of stuff will never go there. Primarily running one shift during the day, longer hours in their busy season. The noise making part of it, which is air nailers and saws, trucks. And the trucks, traffic's been out here on State Road, we had them in and out of there, so that's not going to change. Opposition from a few neighbors centered around the concern of the noise, and when they offered to bring in the stuff that was going to make the noise, it was turned down. It was offered again in another meeting, and that was again turned down. After providing the information requested from the Township Planning Board over 2 meetings, they voted on March 2nd to approve the request for rezoning 6-1 in favor of it. As required by law, this change had to be reviewed by the County Planning Committee. In a letter from them, the County Planning Committee states that the proposed use of industrial at this site would be inconsistent with the Planning Commission. Also admitted that their master plan is way out of date. The area immediately around the property is not A. There's not any crops being grown on it, so it's not A. There's a combination of some wooded space, some thick underbrush, some hills, and some open space. Very few residential houses. The rear of the property is tucked into an area occupied by an old and discontinued sand and gravel pit, which cannot be seen hardly from the road. The Township Master Plan referred to previously states 3 major goals. Provide guidance on future development by encouraging a more organized and efficient growth and development strategy, and provide there is no new growth proposed here. They are not going to change anything. Encourage a safe and active residential environment, housing stock, to ensure the township remains a suitable place to live. And again, they're not going to change anything. Only the property that's been existed there since 1984. No impact on any new housing. Guide development to occur at locations and in a manner that will protect and preserve natural resources and environment of the community. And again, by not changing anything in the property and the buildings or anything, it's not going to have any effect on any of those. The only thing they're going to do is continue to vote later in that letter that in addition to the master plan states that public water and sewer must be provided by the developer, which is found under the development of an. It's not being developed. The property already has water, sewer. Talks about public water and sewer and good access to roads, which is already out there. Again, it's not a new development, so they don't have to, but then the village doesn't provide water. The township has very little commercial or industrial properties outside the village. Only the school and a few industrial areas in the south side of the village currently tie into the city system. Master plan states that commercial and industrial should be encouraged to locate near the village limits. They have good access to North Adams Road, State Road, and Knowles Road. There are no plans of areas designated for any such development of commercial and industrial. You look around the county, in other places in the state or other states, lots of things going on, lots of building going on. Not so much in Village or Adams Township. So what's that mean? No new tax revenue coming in. Residents need to be reminded that the commercial people are the ones paying the bill on this, not residents or agriculture. One outstanding issue that needs to be resolved yet, on the north side is a 75-foot setback, and the property line runs not parallel with the building, and the front of the building by about 12 feet is off by a whole sum of 2 feet, which we are going to go for a variance on that 2 feet issue. We're asking that the existing property be reclassified so that the property can continue to be used in a productive way, such as we have in the last 27 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tobin. Who's next?
I'm Marty Crockett, I own the property that borders on two sides of what Mr. Silver's talking about. All neighbors are against it. Setback requirement for industrial use has not been met, as you just said. There is no public sewer water at that site, and the master plan requires it. Also, State Road is not an all-season road. It's subject to up to 3 months of restrictions. All-season road starts at the village limits, goes north to Jackson. This is from the Michigan DOT and the Hillsdale Road Commission.
Who else? There will be another public comment.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hey, I have a question. When I sent in my absentee ballot, I noticed that it went to the attention of the interim clerk. So who is the interim clerk and who appointed him or her, or what is that about? What happened there?
Do you wish to address that?
Who is it?
Did you mail it to here?
Yeah.
Did it come to you?
It comes here, but it goes to Abe Dane. He's sitting down over there. He is the deputy county clerk. He is in charge of the election.
Okay, so that's who our interim clerk is.
Yes,
Okay. Just for elections, though.
yes.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I have one question about what he said, and what he said over there about roads. Didn't, when Miller put those factors in here so many years ago, didn't they redo all these roads so that they were capable of bringing in the semis?
Mr. Puckett indicated to the north, the MDOT.
North of the village limits.
And I do, to my understanding, I do believe Mr. Silver is incorrect in saying that it's a Class A. It is a primary road, which is a county maintained road. But Class A, as you indicated, is built to extra standards to withstand truck traffic and probably frost, etc.
But they already redid all these roads.
Going.
I mean, I don't see why they couldn't, they wanna do a business out there, do the roads like they did for Miller.
Well, and again, that's not even really the question here, I don't think.
Okay.
You know, it would have been a selling point if Mr. Silver were correct, but there is truck traffic that does go on that road, so it's kind of immaterial.
Okay, just wanted to know.
Anybody else? We'll move along, and there will be no public comment period. We have the approval of the minutes, the regular March 14th board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Thank you, Jason. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Stephanie. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And opposed? Carried. Now, you'll see on the agenda that we have a meeting on the 24th. We do not have minutes for that. Let me explain. We had the regular budget hearing set for the 24th, We actually had it, but Mr. Rounds from the village came, and Pat also indicated that it wasn't in the paper as required by law. We did not know that it had been put in the paper said it would be run, and they screwed up. So we had our meeting, but we re-had it after publication on the 6th, so we'll be approving minutes from April 6th for our budget hearing. So I entertain a motion to that end.
I'll move.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, second. Thank you, Pat. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And opposed? Carried. We have the treasurer's report next. We have a motion.
Real quick, I was just noticing that total, aren't we far above our FDIC insurance?
And I need to talk to you because I need separate checks
Separate checks.
to go to the clerk.
Did you ever put that other, set up that new account way back when, so you're sitting on a check for $100,000?
Yep.
So what's the plan on this then? Just one more check, or do you want that one canceled and then account set
I
up?
can use that one,
Okay.
and then I need another one.
So second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report as presented. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And opposed? Aye. Carried? Not, yes, it is carried, 3 ayes. So up here. Under old business, anything new on the dry hydrants? Stephanie would like to take that off for now. You want to present as you told me earlier?
Well, I was just saying, let's just, until some sites are actually determined on this whole thing, it's pointless to keep having the same
We did
conversation.
find one,
You did
he's,
find one?
Brian is giving me a quote on it, working on it.
Oh,
Do you anticipate we might have something new every month? I can leave this on?
yeah, leave it on if they're working on it, yeah, if they're gonna have some sites.
She wasn't proposing to get rid of it, she just kind of likes to keep this
Yeah,
going.
it's been slow.
Yeah, okay, so, very good, appreciate that. On the Old Town Powell Library, names sometimes escape me, Mr. Lynch, Ryan Lynch, and I have talked, and he's going to be redoing, extending, putting extensions on, and, working towards a closing, so.
What kind of extension?
Well, just the fact of, we've already passed, we've got a realtor here, probably explain it better than my stumbling. We had indicated we would close by such and such a date, and we passed that date, so we will extend those
Just a
dates.
date for extension?
That type of thing, and get things in order to close, so he's still ready, willing, and able, and so
What are we holding up on?
just that, the paperwork. He'd been away for a while, we've just both been busy and not getting back with each other.
Forget, did he sign the purchase agreement?
Yeah, we did. The only thing that's happened is the dates for closing have passed. I don't believe anything else changes on it. We just I gotta get the paperwork that you all approved for me to sign the papers to the title insurance company, so they know that I have the approval to sign.
You just need those meeting minutes?
Yeah,
Should I send them to you?
you probably did.
Probably not doing them.
Yeah, we just gotta get that, all the paperwork, all the Ts crossed and the Is dotted. And on the Lake Bel Air resolution, I spoke to Mr. Fink. I think that Stephanie and Pat may have some information to talk about here. Mr. Fink says that in lieu of finding our actual resolution that's been signed, we're going to have to redo it. He sent over the blank, I have that, our minutes are scanty, and we cannot, unless you come up with anything.
I gave you all I had, that whole full file.
And,
Which is right here.
just
So
have not
just to
seen.
give you a summary on this whole thing, there were two resolutions that looked like they passed, the second one being August 29. It is signed by Michelle, there's a bunch of handwriting on it with a dollar amount of $261.78 per parcel for the initial, or the cost of the program to be assessed on all land bearing, the parcel IDs. Looks like you have the public meeting. No, the next scheduled meeting was October 12th at 7:30. Looks like that would have been a regular board meeting. And looks like there was a roll call vote then in August 29 with all ayes except for Jason. And then from there, I saw saw nothing for October, and we got the actual documentation from Mr. Fink. And how did it end up being worded? With just a blank for how much to be paid out.
Is that the resolution what you just read? Because in August was our first hearing, we have a couple here from the lake or more, and we had a second public hearing. The only thing we're minus is this actual formal resolution that's signed with the
Looks like there's some addition on here. And directs the supervisor to make a special assessment of said parcels for estimated, in the estimated amount of blank per parcel in the regular tax roll starting in the year 2021 and continuing until further action of the board, which special assessment is hereby confirmed. So there's 2 spots on here with dollar amounts to have been filled out and completed. I pulled up October's meeting minutes. You guys, looks like you talked about it. Meeting minutes in regards to it said Mr. Nichols calls to move into a special meeting for the Lake Bel Air Assessment District. Mr. Nichols made a note on properties 0805, 0103, and 0807, 12, 17, 16. Were deleted from the assessment roll. All properties with lake frontage will be part of the assessment roll. Lake Assessment Board, first time assessment for the reason of payment to do BB Creek project. Second payment will be for maintenance fee of around $20. Think change date from 2021 to 2020 if possible, if not 2021 to be ready. Roll call vote to accept resolution for Lake Bel Air assessment roll. Mr. Griffiths, yes. Mrs. Williams, yes. Mrs. Jamalka, yes. Mr. Nichols, yes. Mr. Johnson, absent. Mr. Nichols closed special meeting and went into regular business. So it looks like it was left hanging without this paperwork signed for what, the initial dredging, the initial cost, which I assume was in the intended 260 something, 261.78. And then it was left open for the maintenance, which Mr. Furman came to me in January-ish, I guess, when this started going on the agenda, trying to determine what was going on with that. And then it's my understanding that there is money being withheld for that maintenance on it.
Yeah, I collected $4,800.
How did you, where did you come up with that total?
20.
Or what did you use to?
Whatever they put on the tax bills, that's all I collect. And that was between Mr. Herman and Nick Wheeler
Have you
and you.
talked to Michelle at all about this? Does she have any recollection or know if it was finalized?
I don't
believe
think
that
she-
August one was like a proposal. This is what's, was proposed, and then we had to have the second public hearing. There should be minutes on that. It appears to be within that regular schedule that we went into special hearing.
Right.
And,
There was
I do seem to
controversy this
recall
year.
that we needed to pinpoint what the actual figure for the maintenance was gonna be. But we're still seem to be minus that finalized paperwork, correct?
So 2020 Township, so 2020 must have been the settlement. It was $2,094.24, and then you deducted off attorney's fees, so you paid down $42.24. Just looking for the letter from Powell.
When I gave you all my file that I had for Lake Bel Air, everything else that has come, I've just given to you two.
And I just looked through everything that I had here, and I do not find what was finalized, the signed
When I don't
final
know about that.
resolution. It's unfortunate because Michelle came off of the board shortly after that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Partial sheets. That's what's so confusing to me is why these are all cut up. I don't understand. So anyway, it looks like we need to get some paperwork in line in order to justify the taxes being withheld, the assessment.
So I guess what we'll be doing is talking with the attorney more and
got 26178. 26178, but then it doesn't make sense because I got the 2021 for Linda K. Family Trust, and one of them is 7580, and one of them is
It's a half a lot.
nothing. Oh, Lake Belvedere, that's, oh, yeah,
But we
40,
construed
42.
those as
but that's,
whole lots.
The half a lot they did,
that's the 4042?
should be,
Because there was reasoning at the time.
okay.
I believe they're held by separate deed. If they were combined in one deed, they would be just one lot. That's part of the reason that I recall. It's difficult to go back off the top of my head.
And I wasn't involved in any of that, you and Nick did that.
Well, Nick and myself and the attorney,
Well, yeah,
and we hashed over, should it be front footage, and just seemed the cleanest, best way to go this route. For instance, for a comparison, there's Paget's that own a easement, a 25-foot walkway. They got charged a lot. They can't build on that.
No. Well, either way, something's been done. And
well, I don't think you can build on your half a lot, can you?
Probably not under present zoning, right?
There's no way you could,
Right.
and that's what, you know, I was at all of those meetings, and it was never brought up that there was going to be a change in the way special assessments were done.
Well,
I've been at the lake for over 50 years.
I think it was, but
And
if
this
you
is the
missed it.
first time it's ever been done like that.
Because there's a dam assessment, and on that one, no doubt, it was half that.
It's never been done like what you did, right?
Well, that was discussed at the public hearings, so, and I know you talked to me after that. I'm sorry?
I was at both of the hearings.
Right.
And that was never brought up.
Well,
And after having established, you know, a special assessment zone for others, you would thought that you would follow the same procedure.
That might be an assumption, but it wasn't the way that it was done.
Well, it was never brought up that that's what you were gonna do either.
And I don't even know if I was intimately aware of the dam assessment, how it was done. I was charged with drawing this assessment, which was a new thing to me. Lots of new things come across in this township. Helping
I
Mr.
was
Fink.
at the meetings. And that's what I very unclear, because that decision was made outside of the bounds of any interested parties.
No, it was there, you just missed it. It had not been specifically
It was not
elaborated on.
specified that it was going to be different.
Right.
Well, and I've got here also, it's an email Carl sent to Patricia, I assume, as discussed this morning. Here is the correspondence from our treasurer, Lori Nikowitz, concerning maintenance assessment. There's a typo to 137 and not 37. We would be pleased if you could add the parcel in question and then convey this information with equalization. So her letter says, the LBA LOA membership have approved an annual maintenance fee for the silt dam based on an estimate of $15,000 over 3 years. This was approved by the Lake Belvedere Lake Association. Membership by written ballot at the August 2019 annual meeting. Please create the assessment for the winter tax bills. When you have the final number of parcels, please divide the dollar amount by for 2022 by that number of parcels. I believe the correct number would be 137 after you add in parcel 0850. Our records show that it is owned each half by Linda K. Tyler Family Trust and Joseph Nancy J. Home. That would be an assessment of $36.50 per parcel. So that's another different number, yeah.
So is that a letter from the Lake Association instructing
Well, I assume it's to
instructing
us.
equalization?
Well, it's originally addressed to Patricia, to Adams Township. So it's to us. We have to be the ones that tell equalization, don't we?
Right.
We should be listening to what
We,
he
the
has.
township, created the assessment district. I was charged specifically as supervisor in drawing it, but the board approved.
And then Nick spread the amount, I think is what you said.
Between the properties,
Yeah. He put the assessment roll in and then plugged in the number, the total number we needed.
So we have
No
no
doubt.
documentation even what equalization did. You don't get any kind of
Mhm.
receipts or anything.
No, and I don't get a copy of the assessment roll now.
That's what this is.
Right, I used to get copies, they don't do it anymore.
that's just something they quit altogether,
I am going in and request them.
That's what
but
this
they don't
is.
automatically send
Yes,
it when they use
no,
it.
that's not it either.
That's the list of property owners as I recall.
Right.
Okay, so how do we figure this out? Because I'm very uncomfortable with this operating with,
We'll be getting with Fink and describing exactly what we understand, and we were finding that signed resolution that describes the numbers, we've got to hold whatever meetings we have to have to rectify the
and what do we
situation.
do about the money we collected without a resolution in place?
We'll have to talk to the attorney, I don't know, it's totally uncharted waters for me.
Yeah, in the past, when we've done weed control, was it not done the same as the dam?
That's why I said,
Yeah.
this was completely
Yeah.
undecided.
I understand the confusion, but I stand by the fact that we drew the assessment roll and it was here in 2 public meetings. I hear what you're saying, is that we didn't say, now, make sure you know this is different than how it's been done before. I'm not even sure I realized that at that time, because I wasn't part of drawing those other assessments, that was long before me.
Well, that went through the drain office
Yeah.
back then. When the dam was first set in,
Right.
and then when we started the weed control, we just used that assessment roll.
On that particular project.
Well, we did weed control.
That was,
But this one was,
inland lakes board is what you're saying.
Right, in the lake board, which was dissolved. But then they brought up this pond, or the sediment pond.
right. We created a new assessment district.
Yeah, and probably should have used the dam assessment.
I don't know, it was in the meetings, and this is what we established, and this is what we voted on. So any further questions there?
What's our next, action item, and who's doing what?
We'll be reaching out to Fink and asking his guidance to help us through this. And I think it's basically, we just gotta have meetings to redo it. I'm tired of this stuff for who's ever fault it is for not getting paperwork signed and
Do
filed.
we need to pull in board equalization on this to get some numbers of what's already happened, so we can?
I mean, outside the paperwork that specifies the maintenance, the yearly maintenance, not the build project, we did have a figure in August on that.
261, right?
But there should be final paperwork that establishes that, I'm sure. Somehow, the ball's got dropped. And we're a new board now, some of us we're here, but, you know, we're a new board. but
We're
we're
sending money to the Lake Association on behalf of taxpayers, without anything documented.
We'll get with it, think on it, it's the best I know. It's just like when the paper screwed us up on the other, we're doing the best we can.
Oh, I
with
have
the
documentation
circumstances.
for that.
Huh?
I have documentation for that.
Well, right. That was the paper's fault, but there's somebody's fault here,
Right.
we don't, unless it's just
So
not
are
being able to be
you
found.
two gonna work on this and bring it back to the next meeting? Do I need to get involved in
I
this?
need a
You
copy
just
of
need
that
to
assessment.
file, so
Is that something you call
I
can
can
get?
get-
probably it'd be best to have Pat and I talking to the attorney on this. Yeah, because it's mostly down her alley, more so than
Well, I
yours,
have to collect it, and,
right?
you know, I don't want them coming in and mentioning it
No,
me.
it needs resolved. So yes, action item to give a think on this. And he's already been addressed with it, but we just gotta know
I'm gonna get
exactly
a
how
copy
we
of
gotta
the
follow
dam
through.
assessment, and I'll get a copy of the sediment assessment from Nick.
You can see what he's got right now. I may have told him to go ahead, assuming that the paperwork would be signed, you know? I don't recall. But he says he does what we tell him to do, correct?
Right?
Yeah.
So
We'll just be
once
talking
we have that, and then we know this 15,000 from Lake Bel Air, we'll divide it, that will give us our maintenance that should be going on this,
Well,
right?
it's 5,000 a year for 3
Yeah,
years.
I was gonna say that
That was
is,
15.
It's a total of 15.
Oh, 5,000 a year, okay.
Yeah,
But then with your assessment rule, that's how you determine
I
what,
don't determine it.
well, we'll
It's printed.
calculate it out, what?
It's, Nick prints them on there. He puts them on the tax bill.
So then we should be able to get that.
That's what I'm saying.
Would we
There's a copy of
we
it.
backdate the resolution? I mean, that's the
I
question
don't
for
know that
me.
we'll be back at it, but he'll tell us how to get through it. So, that'll be the next thing to do, is just get with him and tell him we gotta resolve this and what we have to do to do it. Okay, moving on to new business then. I don't recall if I announced this to the board, or maybe said it kind of off the record, but the Hillsville County Soil Conservation is collecting tires on June 22nd. Mark Klein is with the Farm Bureau and passed this on to us and asked, since they were not able to receive enough money from the other sources, the state or whomever, for the same number of trailers they had in the previous year, they asked if we would be interested. My recommendation would be no. I don't know if they charge at all, or if it's totally a free thing. I think that if we
They
pick,
charge for their nominal.
so it's kind of subsidized. That's my recommendation.
That we don't make a
We
donation,
don't take township funds and,
clean up the township.
well, it's not just cleaning up the township, these tires come from who knows where, and there is some cheating going on sometimes, to my
Sure there
estimation.
is.
So,
I'd recommend we make a donation for the tire cleanup. I think. Better find them in the ditch.
any other thought on that?
How much?
I don't know.
I don't even know for sure if they can get extra trailers, but that was.
And you said Mark Klein's in charge of this?
Well, he's not in charge of it, he's involved with it. I think the Farm Bureau.
And this is for June 22nd.
Yes,
I'd like to table it until next month,
maybe we could have Mark
at which
come.
time we can find out what it costs.
Yeah.
Why don't you give me a note to invite Mark to the meeting, so he can speak to us on this. Thank you, Randy. And, moving on, Schoenberger's PA 116, they made application to put land in PA 116, and I think there was a place for us to vote on that. You have that paperwork?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The paperwork that was, you made copies of, and I left off to, farm credit?
Oh, I don't
I'm
know.
not sure the exact entity.
Sorry. I don't have it with me. Sorry, I didn't make the connection, I'm sure you're talking about that.
Okay, we'll just deal with it as soon as we can, you still have that?
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Now, I have a additional zoning board of appeals members candidate. He is unable to be with us this evening because he's under the weather. He would like to have been here, Mr. Gerald McNett. I'm not sure how long they have property in the area, but they built a new house on Law. And this is the retirement area. He's a retired engineer from Ford. He's an impressionable guy, knowledgeable guy, pays attention to detail, and that's about as best as I can say about him. We already need a zoning board of appeal members. We only presently have 3. So,
How many do you have to have for the zoning board?
5. We'd be -1 still, and then we have room for a couple of alternates. For the time that I've had, I've been out recruiting, and some people just don't reply at all, some people are thinking about it, and that's all I have right now, so I recommend Gerald McNett as a member of the zoning board of appeals. second?
Also.
Thank you. Jason? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. Moving to the rezoning of 5500 State from commercial to industrial. We have a letter from the county. The way the law works is if you have a county planning commission, they do, it has to be presented to them. They have up to 30 days to give you an answer. Their answer is not binding. It's just that they have to have the ability to review this. They have responded though, and this is their letter. Dear Adams Township Board, the Hillsdale County Planning Commission received and reviewed your proposed zoning change to industrial. The proposed use of industrial at this site will be inconsistent with the Hillsdale County Master Land Use Plan of agricultural open space. Further review by members wish to mention that it is not consistent with the goals of the Adams Township Master Land Use Plan as stated on pages 1.1 and 1.2 of said plan. In addition, where the Adams Township Master Land Use Plan states that public water and sewer must be provided by the developer. There is a question as to whether it is even possible to meet this requirement at this location. If you have any additional questions or concerns, you may contact us at 517-439-9166. Jack McLean, Secretary of the County Planning Commission. I have went through the master plan. As some of you may not be as familiar with it, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to do that yourselves or not. I do not concur with the county's opinion. I think that they're kind of misreading our master plan. And when I was at the hearing, as was Sobers and as was Mr. Puckett, they made this comment kind of out of the blue. I wasn't prepared for it. I hadn't reviewed the master plan that thoroughly, but having done so later, I don't agree that our master plan, that it's really in, what's the word I want, not in agreement with. A master plan is not the binding document. A master plan is simply that, a plan. It's the goals that's put forward. It's a guide. It's not a dictate. The zoning is to be drawn from the master plan. So I have copied a few pages, and I'm just going to read through here the wordings that is used to implement these goals. Future high-density development, that is industrial, commercial, and high-density residential, will be encouraged in select areas to reduce land use conflicts and maximize the use of future public service. Again, not dictated. It's the zoning that actually makes, from this master plan as a guideline, what the rules are to be. And those are even open to, I mean, they aren't always hard and fast. There's variances that can be had, there's special uses that can be had, there's various variables in it if you really study the zoning. But I just want to reiterate that in many places, this says that it's a guide, and it's to help you in making rational decisions regarding the proposed land uses. We've got a little bit of a problem with our master plan not being up to date. I didn't find in the law that it's a requirement, like with penalty, that it be done every 5 years, but there is a 5-year review that's mentioned in the law. I didn't see that it was an absolute, but we're a little delinquent on that. But what I find a little more troubling is that, and I bring this out to kind of address another issue, but this master plan drawn in 2016, February of 2016, said that several industrial buildings are located immediately south of the village along Knowles Road. Now that used to be true, but the village in 2014 annexed those, they took them away from us, which they have the right to do. The village actually is a higher level of government, as I understand it, than what the township is. So, that being the case, we lost what industrial we had. We had that, and let me think. We had the factory out on Milnes, and it was implemented. We had an industrial. That's since been reverted to rural residential. It ceased to be used for industrial, and they wanted it back to rural residential. So we have just one industrial. That being the case, I think that we ought to have some industrial. And again, this isn't making an industrial development. An industrial development is going to be like a park and have many industries. It would make sense to have sewer and water. And as it was noted, we don't even have water available in the township. We do have sewer, which I think is probably near its capacity. This master plan going on still use language like suggested land use and proposed implementation, so you can't look to the map, you can't do it because this says that. That's not how zoning works. This is a guide, this is a map. It's not the car that gets you there. This is the map that guides the car. Again, policies should serve as a basis. We should strive for compliance with the land use plan with a minimum of land conflict. Zoning doesn't guarantee no conflicts. We can't just say, well, we're just not going to do that because we don't like it. That's not the way the zoning works.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. Sauber stated that there's gonna be no new growth or development on that property. You guarantee that? I mean, obviously, is there room for development if he decides to build a bigger barn out there?
No.
Well, and my concern is the residents that are around it, if he does increase production. You following what I'm saying? And for, Mr. Puckett, did you guys even figure out if it's gonna be a noise problem?
Nothing's been resolved about noise.
Okay, so you don't know if you're gonna be able to hear it from your house? I know where you live, and I'm wondering if it, you think it's gonna be a noise problem at your house?
Yes.
Well, let me continue on because
But you
the
have,
decision of this board shouldn't be, if this might bother you.
well, if I lived right next door to it.
That's not how it works, Randy.
That's why he's here.
And if this board doesn't understand zoning any better than that, let me tell you what, MTA told me. They told me that we should have the attorney involved often with our zoning decisions. We haven't done that. And it's instances just like this, that we're between a rock and a hard place if we don't know how to implement this thing. Because if we do it wrong, Sobers could sue us. If we do it wrong, Buckets could sue us. We've taken control over private property, and in my opinion, we don't well know what we're doing. Follow properties to know how our community is changing, that's all part of this. And we're not willing to do this. If we can't afford this, then we don't belong having a zone community. And if we didn't have a zone community, this wouldn't even be an issue. They'd sell their property, they'd go to work, and if there was a real problem, unfortunately, the neighbors would have to sue. So again, the master plan is not what we draw, it's the zoning, okay? And to that end, we have a planning commission that recommends to the board, and yes, the board has the final say. But we empower them and expect them to have a certain level of expertise because the board can't necessarily do all of that, have all of that knowledge about every increment. Jason could testify to that because as a member of the board, he's liaison to the planning commission, and they meet monthly, sometimes more often, to grapple with this stuff. So the idea is to locate industrial development in select areas to minimize conflicts. And again, in our community, we have no industrial. The corridor of State Road is designated, many of them were designated commercial. And some of them that are industrial, I question why they weren't put in as industrial. If you'll examine the use of properties and if you'll examine our zoning, Stoll Body Shop, just before the curve, that's an industrial use. He's not zoned industrial. So what that means is just like this property, if he wants to sell it and if that use ceases for a given period of time, he can't do body work there under our zoning. That's an industrial use. And Marv did point out that there can't be heavy industrial done there. That's right in our zoning. Heavy industrial has to have a special use. There's higher criteria. The industrial classification only allows for light industrial, which is like assembly. It's in many respects a little different than what can be done in commercial. So if I continue. Property that doesn't seem to be grossly out of line with other uses. And you know, you've got neighbors that complain, but it's give them a right to complain with a thing called zoning. But what we actually have for industrial is a suggestion for a mix of various high-intensity land, such as high-density residential, commercial, and light industrial uses. So we're willing to throw like small lot subdivisions, mobile homes, we're willing to throw them into an industrial setting. And yet, someone else, we're gonna say, oh, well, no, we just won't even go there at all. But we're willing to put a poorer class of people there. I might be digressing just a little bit, but I want you to understand the flavor of zoning too. So this where we've said that a development area would be is pretty well all built up, which is just south of the village. This probably will not happen. And in fact, in the next page, it says it's difficult at this time. This was done in 16 earlier. This is page 4.4. This is not the whole master plan. It says it's difficult at this time to specify specific commercial or industrial areas, as no such areas have emerged in the township. Instead, the plan identifies a general growth area where a variety of uses may be permitted. So, I just see by looking at this in general, likely if there's enough capacity to hook into, but no water. If we're looking at an area like that, then I think it's fitting when our planning commission is voted 6 to 1 to use this property in a light industrial manner. And let me just leave through this, see if there's much else is important. I think we already touched on that. This isn't a development. If it were an actual development, it would make sense likely to have water and sewer there. Again, this land plan should serve as a guideline and to, wherever possible, keep land residential and agricultural. You know, I would probably, as far as zoning goes, if this was proposed to build, I'd probably be against it. I would think that might be not compatible, but utilizing an existing building, it just seems wrong to say, no, sorry, I can't use it. So again, the primary means for implementing this land use plan is through adoption of the township zoning ordinance. So that's the real governance there, and the planning commission has found that it's allowable through the zoning. So, with that, I believe that we have before us the duty to vote and decide if this is going to be rezoned industrial. So So Sobers can proceed with their sale, or if it's gonna be left as commercial, which will preclude present sale. So I'd entertain a motion to change this to industrial. Yes,
Voting on that vote, or just to take the advice? Is the planning commission advice to us in conjunction with the council?
it's up to us
Or
to
are
make
they-
the final decision, so theirs is an advisory vote that they recommend.
Based on their
There's
conversation.
really kind of a more expert, because that is their board, that is what they deal with. And we don't day-to-day deal with zoning.
So I personally do not see anything in the zoning ordinances that would preclude this moving to industrial, based on what's there already, the sewer, everything, the buildings, and using it. Other than the, what do you call it, the 10 feet in the back or whatever that needs to change.
I think it's on the side, it's not even 10 foot. But the Sobers are willing to do what it takes to rectify that.
I don't see anything in the ordinances in industrial that preclude it. When I first read it, I didn't see the wood or lumber, and I see it is in there. And it seems, from what I'm hearing, is that the big issue is the sanitation services or whatever, but if it's got the sewer or septic out there already. I'm just looking at the master plan, under the township goals, and number 4 under that, to maintain and improve public services to meet the needs of the growing community. Permit new growth to occur only at a rate that is consistent with the capacity of the township to provide public services, provide public water and sanitary sewers where necessary and feasible to maintain, foster cooperation, planning, and help others in government. So it seems like the big concern is that we're not polluting our wetlands and our sensitive areas with overcapacity of people. And we've got an entity that's been there since, what'd you say, 2007, 27 years? I don't see that it changes a whole lot, so my vote would be yes, to move to industrial.
So what
I haven't heard a motion.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
I will make a motion to change, what am I,
5500 state road.
5500 State Road from commercial to industrial. As proposed.
Do I hear a second?
You can.
Bill's chairman of the planning commission.
Oh, so you have to recuse?
I'm not sure that would excuse you, but,
Well, if it doesn't, then I will vote.
yeah, I don't think that it would. I guess maybe that should have been clarified, but I don't believe it would.
Spouse was on board at one time, why would it make a difference on the committee?
So that's the second then?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to change it from commercial to industrial, that would be 5500 State Road. Any further discussion? Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ritz,
No.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Scott, yes, and Supervisor Nichols.
Yes. So, we need to get this in the paper as soon as possible.
Do you have wording on that, or what do I use?
I'll have to check on that. I think we'll have a legal description, it'd probably be along the lines of what was sent to the neighbors, so we can get that.
Probably even on that county application.
I'm not certain way off, we can talk about it after the meeting. Okay, I want to go back to the drop boxes that Stephanie handed out last month. I don't recall that we made too much decision, just that we had to think about it. And then looking at this, it's kind of a confusing law, but you have the paperwork in front of you, Act 116 of 1954. If you look on line 1 there, sub-item 1, says except as otherwise provided in subsection and subsection 2. If an absent voter ballot box, drop box was ordered or installed in a city or township before October 1, 2020, that absent voter ballot drop box is exempt from the requirements of this section. So did we put that in? Am I reading that correctly? Did we
Well,
put
it
that
was
in
not-
before that
It
time?
was not bolted outside, which brings forward the question of a loose ballot box outside in November 2020, was moved back inside for a period. And once I was able to secure some bolting it to the concrete, I put it back up.
Okay.
So I understand there's an or there.
And I'm not sure if that or, this is confusing reading to me. I'm not sure if that or isn't supposed to be an and. But
Yeah, you have to go back to the law and see if it has to be, which
You
I gotta
know,
believe it
if
is.
it's just a ballot box, then what happens to the people that drop taxes and the township rental fee? I'm not really aware.
I'm just telling you, you're in a dicey little area.
so, is there anything within the law that lets us remove that? Do we have to have a drop box?
I don't know.
So if we're going to keep it there then, and this was installed, which sounds a little
It
technical.
doesn't say ballot box on it.
Right, that needs to be done. Needs to be
It's
lighted.
for everything.
It's used for ballots, it's a ballot box.
No, I don't consider that.
Well,
It would have to be clear the label doesn't have some.
Well, that's the way I feel.
Do you think it has to be labeled to be ballot box? It just
Yes.
has to be ballots?
So you believe the law does not require us to have a drop box?
Nothing at all.
Do you have any input on that, Abe, since you're here? Do you know if the law requires us to have a drop box?
That I know of.
In that case,
That wasn't brought through the state though, that ballot box.
was not.
No,
That should not matter.
why wouldn't it?
What do you feel is the safe thing here then? It doesn't say drop box on it anywhere. There's no law against having a box of that manner out there. We just won't label it as a drop box, then we won't have to meet the rest of the requirements.
It's going in that Dropbox.
Well, we
And that's
can't-
the chain of custody issue that's of concern.
It's a locked box.
It's locked.
Yes.
Who has to keep?
You've got to clip that.
It needs to be, and it needs to be labeled. I think that's what we're missing. Does anybody else read anything different? We don't have a light that's constant there. I would suggest that we do that you have two in case one burns out. But it's, you lit. That would have to be,
I would have to put a notice out to my people because they drop taxes in there.
you just. Is there anything that it's illegal for somebody to drop taxes? in
I'm
any-
allowed to touch those ballots.
You are.
Yes, I showed you my certificate where I was sworn in as a temporary deputy clerk.
Right. But, if someone were to put taxes in it, is that a big deal?
It's the fact that ballots are treated as a ballot box, that's
Right,
my contention.
So, the way I say it, it either needs to come out of there, or it needs to be labeled, lighted, and a camera, which involves some expense. But if the law doesn't require that we have a drop box, I guess I motion to bring the thing in and not use it as such.
Why don't we just put another box out that says taxes?
Or write taxes on that one.
Taxes only.
Camera. It's a convenience for the people in the township.
Taxes
Right.
and correspondence, no ballots. This is not for ballots. We could label it such, and then we wouldn't have to light it. We wouldn't,
You're saying use it as everything but ballots.
Yeah.
Clearly label it as such. Randy's saying have a second one, get the cameras, get the lights, to comply with state law.
well, if we have a ballot drop box, we have to do that to comply with the law.
When was this put back out? And who secured it?
I put it out by board vote, we discussed it, I want to say February-ish, prior to that March election, and I had a.
And it was out there
Folded
before
down.
that?
Huh?
It was out
I
there
think you
before
guys
that?
had it out for the November 2020 election, but it was in the ground. Because it was moved back inside and
Was it used anytime prior to that?
I believe
Just
it was
for
bought
that
for that,
election?
wasn't it? It was what? It was bought for that November election, November 2020.
I
That was my
she bought
understanding.
it.
That was my understanding.
Where did they drop taxes before we had a box out there?
It had the trust the mail service.
They're probably loving the ballot box, or the box outside there.
Yes.
Yeah. Works great for town hall rentals and key returns.
It does.
How many people actually drop their ballots in there? Do you know, have dropped?
Mail,
In your opinion, is it worth out there?
yeah. For my taxes and the key for the,
For your ballots, do you think it'd be
They're
worthwhile?
not for ballots, but, okay.
I'm just asking. Would it be worthwhile to have a box out there for ballots?
The law doesn't require it, I'm kind of opposed to having it there for ballots.
I'm looking at a convenience. Some
Well,
people,
it's one of the ways that they use to corrupt the election, I believe.
well, if it's locked and only 2 people have it, then how can, if that's not corrupt?
Because there's 1,000 mules and it's about all the people that ballots and boxes.
Well,
So,
that's why you have.
I hear the convenience of it, and if it's not labeled, it's not lighted, it's just not a ballot drop box, as far as we're concerned. We're not providing.
So what do we do with the
If
ballots?
somebody puts in there, we can't help that, can we? What if somebody drives by and throws their ballot up on the porch? What do you do with it in that case? If you find it, you bring it in and process it,
I should remove it. I went to elections.
okay?
So what do you do with the ones that they put in that box then? Are they just not counted?
I think I would just,
The ones that go into that box that's out there,
make it very clear that it's not for ballots.
it would be processed.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go. So why
I'd
are
look
we?
to see when this went into effect, you know? Dang it. We were illegal in March then. March 2021. October, March, November, now.
Some percentage just needs to put not for ballots.
Just label it not to be, just make it well known it's not valid. We can't help if somebody's irresponsible with their ballot.
I probably pull 2 out every morning.
That's because people believe it to be a ballot drop box.
So it was used since November.
I have more of them handed to me if I'm here.
It would be, if we could go that route, it would be obvious, people really can't miss it. They put it in there anyways.
Well, the question becomes what becomes of the ballot.
I don't know, if it's not a ballot drop box,
Again, it's a
same
chain of
process,
custody.
I guess.
I can have one put in the wall in my office, the drop box.
For taxes, you could.
Yeah.
You could. Keys. I mean, it's kind of a shame that we've spent money and now we might take it off, but there's certain requirements that it's to be used as a drop box that we don't need. And I do have a reservation because of what's been done other places, I know that's been done here, but.
Well, I would go with Jason and assign that ballots cannot be accepted in this drop box, but the next question is the legality of what happens if ballots are dropped in that drop box.
In
And,
spite of it.
yes, correct.
I just hand them over to the county.
Well, when we have our own clerk.
I think there's a little bit more of a document control on that. That's where my concern is, that it gets mixed in or whatever the case may be.
Well, maybe we don't have to make
Can I
a
ask a
decision.
question? Any of you guys out there who live in Adams Township, do you think that a drop box is a good thing for your
Nope.
ballot?
Not for anything. That's my opinion.
Anybody else?
I don't use it out there.
I've never used it either, but
If
just
it's-
asking.
Before, the times that I remember the hall here, I come out personally, and you see someone else. But it is, would be convenient for those people that live out of town type of thing, they have to fly through.
They
Because they're
work
not
all
out here
day.
today. You
They
know?
can drop it off on their way to work or on their way home, and usually it's on the way to work. Right. When they rent the building, I've got envelopes in there, and they put their key in and drop it off after they lock the door. I mean, come on. That saves them from having to make another trip in.
We could use it for taxes or. That's the question.
Or couldn't you just market taxes
Taxes
or
only, taxes,
keys?
or non-election material or something there.
But then the question Stephanie raised is what if people put ballots in and still? Then what?
That's, you know what, they can't read.
Yeah, but there's gotta be an internal process, and the new interim clerk will have to deal with the county to determine that interim process, and probably some new paperwork for chain of custody, to make sure it's not,
If the opening is only so big, are they gonna be able to stick a
yeah,
bag?
no, it's a full size.
It's a full size.
24 inches wide with a,
These swivels, you can drop in quite a bit, and it closes and drops down. It's locked.
Almost go about that far from the bottom.
oh, I think it's very convenient.
No?
But
It
we
really is.
Do you want to seek legal advice? Do you want to make a motion?
well, we're out of compliance as it is, so.
If it's
Do you
a
have
Dropbox,
anything to
if it's
say?
a valid Dropbox.
Abe?
Totally up to you guys. I would be curious as to when it was actually, because it sounds to me like the way it reads, it says if it was purchased or installed, and I know you have an issue with the word or, but the way I look at it, if it was purchased before October 2020,
It's ordered ones.
then I would think that, but
We can find
Michelle
records,
did.
look for records.
When I took over, so I've been speaking with Michelle, it's my recollection, she bought it for the November 2020 and moved it back inside after it was done, which my concern was that it wasn't bolted down or secured in any way for that election. But it was something before my time.
It was purchased before then, but was not bolted down.
Then maybe we want to check the exact wordage of this. Because if we're reading, then this doesn't apply. If I'm understanding this right, like I said, the way this reads is kind of positive what they're saying. It looks like there could be a loophole.
Well, we gotta look at number 2. If an absent voter ballot box was ordered but not installed in a city or township before October 1, 2020, the clerk of that city or township must make every reasonable effort to have that absentee voter ballot drop box comply with so,
And that makes me think, because of that should be an and up there on
Right.
number 1. I don't know.
I personally think it's a really like, I don't know, as is, and I'm set with myself, I didn't notice that October 6, 2020 date when I ran the March election. But at least it was secured at that time.
Well, I'll entertain the motion, I'll entertain tabling it, check out more. What's the
We
board?
table it, the election's done, so our next board meeting.
Well, that's, you're right, I was forgetting that.
What did you say, Stephanie?
I said the election will be done on this, and the issues and moot points on the next one.
But
I would make a motion that there's a sign placed on it to disallow any ballots or election materials in it, and that Patricia, as interim clerk, will work with the county to determine the chain of custody and any paperwork that must ensue in order to document and record any ballots that are put in that box between now and any upcoming election as well.
is there a second to that?
I'd say.
Motion and a second, you want to put that down and repeat it?
Yes.
It's a little lengthy. And Mr. Leininger, as soon as we're through with this, I saw him in and then I forgot and I apologize. So we're through with this item? Okay. I'll be ready. Hand up and wave your hand.
So make a motion to place about semi-permanent signage. Semi-permanent signage to allow ballots, AV applications, and any election material, and any other election-related materials from being placed in the outside box, from being placed in an outside container. And Patricia, as interim clerk, to work with the county. It's interim clerk, it's election duties. Interim clerk to work with the county to establish chain of custody, procedure, and paperwork to document any ballots received in the box.
So do we have a motion and a second, and any further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote on this one too, please.
Just 1 second. So for this election and upcoming elections. Okay, Mr. Johnson.
No.
Mr. Grimes.
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
No.
Myself, I'll say yes. And Mr. Nichols.
Yes. So we have a 3-2, it passes. The next question is who's going to make the signage, who's going to arrange this?
Well, that's part of the motion, as interim clerk.
To arrange for the signage?
As easy as a piece of paper put in a plastic sleeve, but I don't think it's an envelope out there anyway, though, is it?
No,
I don't think I've noticed any, so probably can just be a piece of paper typed down or taped down long enough, just so it doesn't look tacky. Right, why
That
not?
probably suffice for the time being.
And maybe reference the state code.
Can you handle that, Pat?
What?
Make it a sign and put it
Oh,
in your
yeah.
sleeve? Great. Mr. Lanker, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Gary Lanier. I'm one of the 3 road commissioners in Hillsdale County. And I'm here tonight to just make a brief report on some things the road commission is doing in the 2022 year. When we adopted our budget in December, one of the things that I feel good about is that our 2022 budget is about $3.5 million larger than it was in 2021. Some of you may have heard me make a presentation at this board meeting a couple different times in 2021. That was a real concern that I had, that we ended 2020 with like $3.5 million in surplus funds sitting in a checking account. And there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done on our roads. So when it came time to put the budget together last fall, our manager came out with a budget that did increase spending levels some, but I flat out told him at a public meeting I would not vote for it unless we increased that number by at least $1 million. And I got support from one of my fellow commissioners, and so he went back and reworked the budget, and we came out with the budget that was adopted. So where's that additional money going? We have 2 bridges that we're doing in the county. We didn't do any bridges in 2021. So we have 2 bridges, one on Montgomery Road that if your county commissioner was still here, he would tell you this is a project that's been on that list for 6-7 years. It's long overdue. And we finally, the old bridge is out and they're building the new one as I speak. Not tonight, but during the work week. So that's something that badly needed to be done. The other one is on Camden Road in Ransom Township, near Gilbert Road. That's a bridge that got a 6-ton load limit put on it in the summer of 2019, and it really made it difficult for farmers in the southeast part of the county to get grain to grain elevators in both Prattville and Waldron. And so that one is going to get replaced and will be done before fall harvest starts in September, October. One of the things that we're attempting to do this year is a lot of projects with townships. Last year, if you recall, township board members, we didn't do hardly any local stuff all over the county, but we are doing that this year. And I'm not sure, I don't remember where you are in terms of contracts with us. Maybe you've already sent them back and maybe we've approved them and you have signed contracts in place, or where?
We've got the 3,000 tons of
Limestone?
limestone and Peterson Road in conjunction with which township?
Hillsdale.
And I did get a receipt back from you, I was gonna ask, but it's missing the chairman's signature from you guys. So we've got 2 signatures, but it's missing the 3rd. Should I be concerned or reach out and see if I can get that signature?
Contact John, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, if you have 2 of the 3 of us, that's a majority. So one of the things we're doing this year that we believe will help our situation out substantially and help you as well is we've been hauling limestone since early February to various spots around the county that is used prior to doing the dust control. Limestone is put down and then is graded with our trucks, and then the dust control is put on. We ran into a serious problem a year ago. The trucking company is short on truck drivers. Everybody's short on truck drivers these days. And so that put us in a real bind, and we got behind, and then we got way too much rain in June and July, and it made it a late season to get the dust control applied. So that came up at our, actually in January when we were meeting with townships. And I actually think that Bob Godfrey, one of the other road commissioners, came up with this idea. We have a large farm in Lenawee County that hauls grain to Toledo, and they backhaul limestone to us. And so that's working good, and we've got a large chunk of the limestone already hauled that we're going to put on township roads all over the county. Also, we did approve, I think it was in January, after we had met with the townships, reducing townships' reimbursement levels for a couple of different areas. Reconstruction, that went from 70-30 to 60-40, and then any roads where we do paver patching or seal coating, that was reduced from 70-30 to 50-50. So we think that's clearly a better deal for townships, and we took that move to encourage townships to do more work on local roads. So those are the main things I wanted to bring to your attention tonight. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you have. Yes, Mark.
When Brad Benzian was here, he addressed the hearing the commissioners are going to have.
Yes.
And one of the actually asked a question about do they have enough manpower. So if you're anticipating by chipping in a little more that we will do more road work, do we have the manpower? So that's one question. If you remember that question, I guess I would also like you to comment, since you've been on the road commission now for what, nearly a year and a half?
15 months.
Okay, so you weren't at government, you weren't into. You've been county treasurer 36 36 years? 39
Yes,
years?
36
You're
years,
a county commissioner in the 80s. The road commission was new to you,
yes.
and you stated such, you said there'd be a learning curve, but I'm up to it, basically. So, as you've been there this length of time, as it seems as there are some problems at the road commission, there's some problems with the whole road system. You didn't lay it all on the road commission in prior conversation. Do you think that it would be a good move to expand the number of road commissioners per chance? Could you discuss with another road commissioner and another without breaking the Open Meetings Act, and would that be a better scenario in getting your job done?
I'm probably the guy responsible for bringing that issue to the forefront, all right? You know, I served on the Board of Commissioners in the 70s. Prior to that, I was on the school board at Weldon in my 20s. Been on numerous boards as county treasurer, worked with county commissions. Interestingly enough, after I retired as county treasurer, I got elected to the school board at Weldon again, where I serve currently. School boards in the state have 7 members. County commissioners in counties our size must have a minimum of 5 members, can have as many as 9. You know, you get in big counties and the numbers go up. Village councils have 6 or 7 members. City councils have same, you know, anywhere from 6 to 8 or 9 members. So my point is, road commissions are the only elected body in the state, or appointed, some of them are appointed, that can have a 3-member board. Now, I didn't even realize that in the state of Michigan, it was possible to have a 5-member board until after I became a road commissioner. Lo and behold, of the 83 counties in the state, 33 have 5-member boards. 43 have 3-member boards, and there are 7 where the County Board of Commissioners serves as the road commission. I think if we were to go back and look at the history, I don't think the law, it was even possible to have a 5-member board until the Open Meetings Act came into play sometime back in the late 60s or early 70s. And I think after that happened, all of a sudden road commissioners realized how difficult it was to really function and do their job, you know, because before there had been a lot of behind the scenes stuff happened that didn't happen in a public meeting. And now if they really wanted to live by both the spirit and the letter of the law, they couldn't do that anymore. And so that's where I think the 5-member board came into play. And so I really believe that the road commission in Hillsdale County could function better if we had a 5-member board. Because you're right, I can't pick up the telephone and call one of my fellow board members because I'm breaking the Open Meetings Act. I'm not going to do that. You know, I took an oath of office to follow the law. And, you know, or I can't drive to one of their homes and have a discussion with them about any road commission issue, or I'm violating the law. And there's good reason for that. Now, some people have raised the question, well, you know, if we have 2 more road commissioners, that means potentially it could cost the road commission another $40,000 or $50,000 of expense. Let's put that in perspective. You know, if you have a $13 million budget, it's about 0.4% of the county budget. It's a pretty insignificant amount out of a $13 million budget. At the same token, you know, I think one of the things that's going to be covered in one of the public hearings is whether the road commission should be disbanded and the county board of commissioners serve as the road commission. I'm not in favor of doing that. And here are some of the reasons why. I think it puts too much power in the hands of too few people. And the road commission has some, very interesting responsibilities that county commissioners currently don't have. Most of the counties that have gone that direction, of the 7, 6 of them are big counties. The only one that is close to us in size would be Ionia County. And they probably have 60, 70,000 people, where we're about 45,000. But the others are, Wayne County, Macomb County, Jackson County, Calhoun County. I can't remember the others. But interestingly enough, even some of the other big counties still have either elected or appointed road commissions. Like Kent County, for example, one of the biggest counties in the state. Saginaw County, Genesee County. And most of those are 5-member boards today in those counties. So those are my thoughts.
And real quick, on the number of employees, you feel like you need some more employees?
I believe we do have 1 or 2 more truck drivers today than we had a year ago. We're going to contract out the bigger jobs. For example, Montgomery Road. Any of you traveled Montgomery Road recently west of M49? Rick, have you been on that? It's lovely, isn't it? At about 10 miles an hour. So that one's going to get resurfaced, from M49 to Montgomery. It's a county primary road. We're going to contract out that job. There are going to be some other, major jobs around the county that we're going to contract out, because we clearly know that we can't get it all done ourselves. And, to me, even some of the smaller jobs, if we get in a bind, we need to do that and contract it out so we can, get stuff done on a timely basis before winter comes this fall. So yeah, it'd be great to have, another half a dozen truck drivers. But right now we're having problems getting trucks. We just took delivery on 2 new trucks that were ordered like 18 months ago. And if you ordered new trucks today, it's at least 2 years or more down the pipe before we can get them.
So the ability to contract the employees is not really that big of an issue, you don't feel?
I hope not. One of the things that I do think is going to be an issue is we have a lot of bridges in this county that need to be replaced. I wasn't aware of this until after I got elected, but there's 11 or 12 within 5 miles of my house that all have load limits on them. And a couple of them are major bridges on Waldron Road, which is a main haul route for the entire eastern half of the county to get grain to Prattville and to the elevators in Waldron. And the problem we're going to have is the price of steel and the availability of steel. And right now, the contracts statewide that are being let for bridge projects have gone up like 25 to 30% over a year ago. And so it's going to make it difficult. So that may sort of level out some of the issues that we have with, having enough employees. Some of the costs that we're seeing, fuel costs, road commissions are going to face that issue because one of our big costs is fuel costs for our trucks. And the other piece of the puzzle that we may have a negative effect with is going to be potentially less revenue because people are going to drive less. Right now we've seen gas prices back off. But if they go back to $4.30, $4.40, $4.50, $5 a gallon, 80% of our revenue comes from the tax on fuel that we all pay at the pump. And I'm sure that if gas prices skyrocket again, that's going to have an impact on our revenue stream from the
So
state.
real quick, you would concur with me that the problem of bad roads certainly does not lie lately with Hillsdale County Road Commission.
No, this is it's an issue all over the state, you know, and lack of funding for rural roads has been an issue for years. There has been some improvement made in that area, but like the infrastructure bill that the federal government approved, well, right off, very first thing that happened after it got approved is our lovely governor says the state's gonna keep 75% of that money, and we're gonna get 25%. To me, that wasn't fair.
And that was my point, that we have to work, not just on correcting any deficiencies in our local road commission, it's the other parts of the
Yep.
problem. I'll be quiet, unless the board has questions, take questions from the audience.
I got a question.
Sure.
Do you think that reclaiming to offset the cost of gravel, and actually, not that they're not, but getting the trucks out and actually hitting the dirt roads, putting the plows down and taking care of the potholes? You know, granted, the price of fuel, I get that, but man, you're burying cars out on these. I think that getting the trucks actually out of the parking lot and onto the dirt roads would be beneficial rather than just leaving them set. You say yourself that you got manpower, put a couple guys in the truck and hit the roads.
No,
People are really tired of getting cars to them.
I agree wholeheartedly. And in some cases, I came from Fayette Township before I came here. And, you know, particularly when you get big holes, the trucks don't address the issue. We need to get the graders out there.
We need to reclaim the berms that
Yep.
are 12 to 15 inches tall on the side of the roads, and reclaim that dirt, rather than the township kick in ungodly amounts of money for gravel and limestone to reclaim the stuff that's sitting off to the side. Granted, it's got some organics into it, but it's still gravel that the trucks have put over there.
Yes.
And put it back into the holes that are in the roads and hit them 2 or 3 times.
Yep. I agree with you 100%.
It takes a motor grader to do that, doesn't it? To get to really bring those berms in. But do you
Yep.
not have a apparatus that the county owns for a deburr?
We do. It's my understanding at least 2 of the 4 graders, they have like maybe a 6-foot section of a disc, like a farmer would use, but it's not, you know, 16, 18 feet wide. It's a 6-foot section of it. But here again, it doesn't do any good if it's sitting in the garage in Hillsdale.
For sure.
You gotta get it out there on the road and put it to work.
I think a lot of people would be happier if
Yeah.
I was told you're not allowed them to use it.
Pardon?
I was told you guys won't allow them to use it.
Really?
Yes. As far as the berm, you guys pushed the berm right off down the road from my house with a grader. And got stuck with a grader in the field.
When did that happen?
2 weeks ago.
Yep. Because there was an extremely large hole that was over a foot deep that, anyways, yeah, I called several times and finally somebody came out and was told, plow it shut, grade it shut, and demanded stones to be brought in, and finally there was large rocks brought in because there was no way to grade this hole shut that was literally over a foot deep.
Well, yeah, you say you got limestone hauled in.
Where's the limestone?
What was that?
The limestone has not
Great
been,
big rocks.
no, the limestone is smaller stuff.
Right, these are great big rocks.
Well, but those big rocks, in my opinion, where you've got a big hole like that, those big rocks need to go in
He
first.
was told not to even put anything in
No,
it.
he was told
Grade it shut,
The grader operator was told that?
that's what he was
grade it
told.
shut. He said,
And you're more than welcome to come out and look, see where it was done at, and because it is
It's still
still, you can't even drive, I can't drive my vehicle through there.
Which road is this on?
It's on Hawk Road.
Between,
I have like a 3-part question there, so there's their part,
it's between Pittsford and Holcomb River.
Pittsford Holcomb Road.
I mean, it gets graded in the summertime once to the 3 times of the rest of the for some reason.
And actually today, the rest of the road was graded
up to Holcomb Road, and that section was not graded. Again. But then I'm told that it's the township's responsibility to give the permission to the commissioners, road commission, to have it graded, and that they tell them only hit the bad spots.
That's not true.
Well, that's
Talk with your grader drivers.
what I'm told by some of the workers that are out on the roads. I'm just telling you what we're being told. What we're being told. Because literally last year, our section from Holcomb Road to Pittsburgh Road was graded once every 3 times that the rest of the road was graded. And if you guys want us to maintain our section or do what we need to do, tell us. Tell us. Because we'll gladly do it.
You shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to,
Right.
but if that's what we need to do, tell me. Just because we will take our equipment out and we will do it. There's a section on that part right there where that large hole is, a ditch needs to be dug, because when it rains, the rain runs right down there and washes all the field into the road. There needs to be a ditch dug, and we were also told that they can't do anything about it, that has to come from the township board members as well.
No.
So,
We have the capability.
this is what your workers are telling us.
Yeah, we have the capability of putting a ditch in if a ditch needs to be put in, and hauling stone. We're hauling big stone and putting in holes in other parts of the county, and it shouldn't be any different.
Well, it shouldn't be,
On your
but
road than it is the other.
apparently Holcomb Road to Pittsburgh Road is a special section that only can be touched 4 times a year or something, I don't know.
Well, I will
But
go
it's
out and
ridiculous.
personally take a look at it and convey that message to the manager.
Okay, and then my other question, I said I had a 3-part question, it's about the bridges. I just read something that the state has allocated some money to Hillsdale County to replace some of these really bad bridges.
One bridge.
Correct? 1? Okay, I thought it was 3.
No.
Was that miss? Okay.
And that bridge is on Swafield Road, just east of Waldron Road.
Okay.
And that's in that, what they call that bridge bundling program. We have applied for others, but that's the only one that we have.
Maybe
been
I read there
approved for.
had been applied for so many, and that's where I got my number on. Okay.
In that same story, or about that same time, I heard on the radio that Branch County had 2 bridges that got approved in that bridge bundling program. But we only have the one at this point in time.
Okay. Well, one's a start.
It is. And the good news about those is that we don't have to put any local money
Right.
into that project. The state's gonna pick up the entire cost of it. So that's a plus, And I'd like to get 1 or 2 of those a year in Hillsdale County. That'd be great.
Gary, I gotta chip back in on that topic, because when I rode with, Foreman, there I rode with.
Yes, just recently,
Yeah.
Alan Cole.
Yes. We talked a lot about the berms. We talked about ditching several years ago, and I think we mentioned this at the committee, I think I did. Could be upwards of 10 years ago, maybe longer. We paid at least 20 grand, I believe, maybe more, to re-ditch and berm and put some cross culverts in Mock Road between Lake Pleasant and Mills.
Okay.
Alan and I noted that there's small trees growing up again in the ditches, and there's a bit of a berm, may not be as bad as some places. I don't know if you're familiar with the policy of the county. Have you read that? Hillsdale County Road Commission's policy, handbook or whatever.
Well, I know it says that the berms will be removed.
Are they not supposed to bring them in every spring?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing that, I appreciate the proactiveness that we've seen with you so far, and that I'm pushing for. We've got about half dirt roads, and you and I talked before on this, that if we could get the berms in, that's gonna improve it quite a bit. And yeah, the other thing, there'd be some ditching here and there, they can go in and patch ditch.
Oh, absolutely.
Without charging us, because in the past, it seems to be that they wanna let things go, and then they want us to pay to make it right.
Yeah, if you were gonna, take a road that was in bad shape and re-ditch an entire mile of it, yeah, the township and the county would share those costs. Simply fixing a bad spot like that, which, I don't see any reason why we can't do that.
And if they, for whatever reason, because we did know Southern Grader had been down there and throw a lot of dirt up, really tore it up.
Push it right out in the field.
Yeah, if they don't
Then they
take
got
care of
stuck
that pretty
again.
promptly, maybe Alan needs to bug in his ear, because that shouldn't be left that way.
No. And Alan has took that position last fall, like in about the 1st of October. But I really find, he's a local guy. He lives not that far from here. He may be in Jefferson Township. But I really think that he wants to do a good job. And I think he'll be responsive and make every effort to do what is right.
I'd like to comment on, if the township has ditches that are long, like a mile or a mile and a half, that the township should kick in part of that to clean those ditches when, if those ditches were maintained, we wouldn't have an issue with the ditches. But then it becomes the township's issue, if our ditches aren't maintained, for us to kick in money to pay for them to get fixed. I can tell you, driving around dirt roads got 15-inch berms on there. That didn't happen overnight. But yet, if we was to pay to get those removed, and if they were maintained, we wouldn't have that problem. We turned our dirt roads into rivers. And by turning them into rivers, every time you hit a pothole, you're kicking part of that road out of there. But the rivers are there because the berms are so tall that the water doesn't have any way to escape. But in order for us to get those ditches fixed, you're saying that's right.
Okay, I've been on the road commission for 14 months.
I'm just asking.
This issue with the berms, as I understand it, has been ongoing for years.
Yes.
You
And on deaf ears.
I'm gonna make my comment based on what I see in the gravel roads in my area. In most cases, farmers are farming clear up to the edge of the road. We have no ditches. We haven't had ditches ever on those roads. That's what I'm saying. In a case like that, where you haven't had any ditches, you've got to start from scratch. Now, if there are ditches that have been there for a long time, and out of neglect, they're getting filled in, then I agree with you. I understand your position.
Could I say something?
Yeah.
You took cutting down Bird Lake Road today at least 5 times. Okay, 5 times, back and forth, back and forth. You left the berm every time. Last year, you had to replace the end of my driveway because water runs across the road and into my driveway. This year, it's doing the same thing. He doesn't plow off the road. He could crown that, he could take that berm off, and all the water would go off. He doesn't know how to drive his truck.
Exactly.
I mean, the berm is that high.
Thanks.
So the water runs right down, across the road, right into my driveway. That guy last year brought his truck down and filled in the whole end of my driveway. And he went down the road and dug a big hole, About 2 weeks later, they come, plow it again, put a berm on it.
Which road do you live on, sir?
That's I live on Dewey Road, but that's Bird Lake Road comes across.
Okay.
That ends right
I mean, Dewey's making particularly, it goes south of there too. Right around the tail socket, going down Bird Lake Road there, so rough. You ran about 5 miles an hour on this road, too.
But it's not that you guys aren't trying. It's just that it just seems like the amount of trying doesn't get it done. You guys are saying you don't have manpower, you need trucks. I get it. But, everybody who I talk to or has talked to me says, geez, we're spending spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on repairs for our cars because we're just bouncing the bottoms off.
Sure. Yeah?
What about Addison Road right here? Matter of fact, talk about cars, our back end has been screwed down twice for the holes out here on Addison Road, right here.
Right.
There's a big hole in there, and some of the neighbors even went trying to fix it.
Now, I want to encourage all of you to, when issues like this develop, whether it's on a blacktop road or gravel roads, call the road commission.
Oh, ask them what my name is, I'll tell you what my name is, they already know.
I've left message after message
Yes.
after message,
That
and
call from
finally
the-
a nice lady did call me back and said that she was going to have John, whoever John is, contact me. I've yet to hear from John, and that's been 5 weeks.
Hey, John is the manager at the road commission. Yes, sir.
Okay. You guys are, I should say, you guys, the county commissioners are having meetings. Determine whether to do away with or add more to it. Maybe it would help me, a road commissioner.
Okay. The primary responsibility of the road commissioner is to hire the manager, approve the budget, adopt the budget, and give general overall direction of how the money is going to be spent. You know, those of us on the road commission, the 3 people on the road commission, we don't supervise the people on a day-to-day basis. That's not our responsibility. That's the responsibility of the man.
So he dictates
Adding
where.
2 more of you isn't gonna do the job, then, is it? You're not me.
To me, that's not the issue, sir. I think, you know, here's my point. All right? We got 3 members. Most of you have known somebody this last year who's been deathly sick with COVID, spent maybe 60, 80, 90 days laid up, couldn't function. If that happens to one of the 3 road commissioners, then we're left with 2 people. And what happens then if one of those people gets in a bad accident and they can't function for an extended period of time? We can't meet, we can't pay the bills, we can't perform our functions. Or, if that doesn't happen, let me try this scenario. Say we got one person that's a picture because of a health reason, and the other 2 people on the board aren't getting along.
Can you hire somebody else?
Ma'am, I'm talking about people that are elected by the people of Hillsdale County. And so, you know, it could come down to a situation where the 2 that are physically capable of functioning, one decides, I'm not gonna go to the meeting. The other guy, you don't even have a quorum. I mean, just like your township board. Would you want them to be a 3-member board?
I guess I'm kind of getting at the people out here complaining and so forth. They're not gonna be the ones going out you're not gonna be the ones going out to fix it. It's someone else that's gonna be doing that.
Right.
So adding more people in your position, what good is that gonna do? I understand the Open Meetings Act, I understand that. But it sounds like you need more people driving trucks.
That would be good. But we also have to have, you know, trucks that are serviceable. And in the situation we're in today, where, you know, you can't buy new trucks in 3 months. You know, you order them and it's 2 years down the road before you can get them. You have to make do with what you have. And I would just ask all of you to remember this, the situation we're in with our roads, we didn't get there overnight. We don't have the financial resources or the manpower to change it overnight. We all need to do what we can do, you know, to make progress. And that's, you know, why I stuck my neck out and ran for this job. Some people wanted to know, well, why did you run for it? Well, it's not because of the money. The short answer is I tell people I'm a glutton for punishment. But the real answer is I'm trying to make a difference. And I think I have made a difference in some areas already. And I'll continue to do that.
I'm sorry for continuously jumping in, but I've been a bit involved with the road issue, and it's one thing that I'd like to make. It's a bipartisan thing, only good roads to drive on. It's not something that we'd probably be arguing about, but can we make the difference? Can we identify the problems and change things? So I appreciate whatever you're doing to that end. And personally, I think I'd be aiming for a 5-member board, and if it doesn't work, or we're not making any headway, I expect we could change it back in the same process that we made
Sure.
for 5 members.
Exactly.
But I did want to ask you, because you said you don't get involved day to day with the employees. So we've got some issues, negotiations and lawyers. I think maybe the road commission has a lawyer negotiating with their union.
That's correct.
Do you get involved?
At our last meeting, we were, could help get us together. I'm not at liberty to say anymore.
So you're not oblivious to that situation?
Correct.
I mean, we gotta have management that cares, but we gotta have workers that care, and I've heard multiple times from various workers, so not even with the road commission now, that things just ain't right as far as management, they just don't run things right, so, yeah, you think, maybe if we had a couple more road commissioners that would really delve into it, that we can either make our present manager toe the line if necessary, or find another?
I think that's a possibility. I mean, I'll flat out tell you, our manager does not live in Hillsdale County. He lives almost to the Eaton County line. Why in the world the road commission that was in place when Stan Klingerman left and they hired him, why they did that is a mystery to me. When he leaves, I can tell you my top priority, if I'm still on the road commission, will be to hire somebody that either lives in Hillsdale County, or if they don't live here when they're hired, they agree to move in Hillsdale County within at least 6 months after they're hired. I mean, if he had to live here every day and rub shoulders with all of us and drive the roads that we drive, he'd have a lot better appreciation for what the situation is. And to me, that's important.
Gary, you mentioned at one time that he doesn't really get performance reviews.
We gave him one
Okay.
right after the first of the year, sort of. It wasn't, I mean, I'm on the school board at Waldron, so I've been involved in doing performance reviews for 2 different superintendents in the last 3 or 4 years. And those are much more thorough than what we did for the manager at the road commission.
Why?
Because I'm only 1 out of 3.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Laniger, how many trucks does the road commission have that do run?
Somewhere in the middle 30s, I think, or around 30 to 30 plus. I mean, we have 4 graders, and so we have 4 of the men who are grader operators. So I would say somewhere around 30. Yes, Mark.
Everybody here's got a road that's bad, and you can always use the scenario that, well, you're the only person that does it, so the road commission doesn't believe in wasting money on one person or this person. But you drive Bird Lake Road from Territorial to the line where there is a detour for 15 that has not been touched in 4 weeks. And there's a lot of people running that one, so you can't even run that scenario line. Not that you're not important, don't get me wrong, but not in the, but you can't even use that and say, well, we gotta put our trucks and money where the most people benefit. Because I don't know how many people are running that detour. So, does he ever get out and drive the roads? That should be part of his job.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree.
Who hires and fires him?
The road commissioner, the 3 members of the road commission.
I know this, sorry, this isn't really happens Township, but the whole thing is a whole, Sandville Road between Baker and Walter. It has that same exact problem. They got large stones in there, and also a paramedic that works at the Somerset. We darn near crashed our ambulance because of that the other day. So, I mean, it's not only affecting general public, it's also affecting emergency services.
Sure.
And how these so, just want to give you aware of that, so.
On Sandville Road, you said?
Yeah, Sandville, Walter, and then Baker.
The school buses that go down these roads, so, you know, we're paying our taxes to the schools.
Yep.
Buses are just.
So, I mean, that's why, yeah, you got the school buses going down these roads, so not only am I paying, I'm paying the school taxes too. I mean,
We do the best we can,
it's just, it's frustrating.
Well, it's something, Randy, you know, along that line, I know we're spending a lot of topics on this, but if we could get some good roads out of this, it would be worth it.
it would.
I went, before COVID, down to talk to the superintendent. I said, I got an idea, because I was thinking of the emergency vehicles and the police and the school buses. And I'm thinking, these guys should be, except that they don't pay for their own vehicles. We do. They should be interested, and let's get better roads.
Sure.
So your superintendent listened to me. He referred me to the intermediate school district. Forget her name, I'm not familiar with her. They didn't call me very promptly, and then COVID happened, and if my memory serves me right, and things kind of got put on the back burner. But I've been pushing with other supervisors and citizens, if they're willing, then let's band together and let's put some pressure on, and let's find out where the problems are. Let's work with other communities. Let's get the monies from the states we need, because as we were talking, you know, it costs up from scratch to make a mile road. It's getting upwards of $1 million, right? But that
Yeah,
rate-
if you were to take a, you know, spoke dirt road or a gravel road, and you wanted to, ditch it and build it up and pave it, yeah, it'd be close to $1 million a mile.
So if we were to do that countywide, that'd be $1 billion. We don't have anywhere near that funds.
I don't even want my road paved, I want it drivable.
I hear you.
I mean,
I agree.
And it's been my contention for some time now, that if we just get those berms off, it'll make a world of difference. Then we can work to get a little more gravel.
It would be cheaper, because we're not buying gravel. We're reclaiming.
Yeah, sure, what we can.
You angle that thing
So-
and pull it back in.
So press for that, because not this year, but a year ago when I was riding, the guy said, well, you know, yeah, we could drag it in, but then the neighbors complains it looks bad. Let them complain. It'll dry out in a few days. Get her to, you're gonna reclaim a lot, right? And then if we need to add some gravel, we'll work at it. We bought the max that you would do for us this year.
Yeah.
We're willing to spend a little money on roads, but we're limited too. I mean,
Sure.
we could pave a few miles of road and we'd be out of money.
I don't think we should pay it, let's just.
No, I'm
be
just using
frugal.
that as a comparison.
Let's
You know,
just be frugal and use the materials that we have available at our disposal
Right.
rather than purchase.
and maintain them properly. You can't just deburn them and shove it right back out there.
I agree wholeheartedly with you.
Yeah, and you're gonna get potholes no matter what. People driving on it's gonna make potholes, but to leave them sit there until they're so bad that you can't drive down the road, that's
That's the
ridiculous.
width of the road, only over a foot deep. That's ridiculous.
I I agree.
I think so.
We understand there's sometimes some other limitations, but sometimes there has to come to an end to the excuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Gary, I'd just like to say I appreciate all you're doing on the road commission, and it sounds like you're not willing to step back and past is the way it is, so I appreciate it.
if we just sit there and twiddle our thumbs, we've got to be proactive. And like the spots that you've told me, within the next few days, I'll be out there and personally ride that myself. And then go hammer on John and say, we gotta fix this. This is not acceptable. This is bad.
Do the other two board members do that, Gary, do you know?
I don't know. I can't speak for them.
Can't talk to them.
He can't call.
If you have a five-member board, you can legally, one by one, call every one of them.
Yeah.
But as it is, if you're talking road stuff,
Yeah, the only time I can discuss a road issue with them is when we're in a public meeting.
Yeah. I'll call
So,
Commissioner, real quick, are there any other ways for the citizens to report issues other than having to physically call the road commission? Is there like online reporting or?
not to my knowledge.
You can message them on Facebook. I've done that before. I've gotten a faster response that way than calling.
And that's why I'm curious if there was something you could go on the road commission website
Yeah.
for reporting that may be.
I've gotten a faster response through Facebook than actually calling, so.
Well, I've probably taken more of your time than you wanted me to take, but I think we've had a good, open discussion, and this is good, because we don't have problems if we don't bring them out into the open.
I have one generic question. Have you seen any more funding from the state under Governor Whitmer after she campaigned to fix the blank roads all the time? Yeah, interesting.
I mean, I go back to the federal funding. I think I already mentioned that, but I'll just hit it again. You know, that big chunk of money, and Michigan's gonna get several $billions of it. Out of that, the state's gonna take 75% of it.
For what?
Well, for bridges and interstate highways, state highways. I was on 94 the other day from Jackson to Ann Arbor, and it truly needs to be repaved. It's in bad shape. There's lots of potholes there that, glad I didn't hit one of them very squarely, or it might have broke the wheel right off my car. There was a couple of them that are that bad. So, thank you. You're welcome.
moving along, parking lot maintenance, I talked with Wendy before the meeting, Randy talked with Jason. Remind me, did we seal and strike that last year, or is this a year?
Last year, we had Belson come in.
It was just last year?
And we did it before winter, because we were worried about cracks getting bigger.
Okay, and they did get it
A year ago,
Yeah, we were-
not last winter, but the winter before.
So they usually like to seal coat every second year or third at the
Well,
outside.
I think something needs to be put in the cracks before, rather than just dump tar on top of it so it goes down in again. They need to pack that with something. So
So I think that probably I should reach out to them and.
I would reach out to
look at
them.
that.
A couple of them.
You said our, if we can get him early, I think he wasn't available that other year, and also did work us in. But if they have a better alternative for the cracks, because our cracks are kind of deep, if we can keep those sealed and not bust the parking lot up, it's in relatively good condition, I believe.
Yeah, we just need to keep the tar from melting, going down in.
So get started on that earlier this year, put that an action item for me.
Who gets at school?
RDK.
Have you put something in the budget for it?
No, I don't know, maybe you didn't.
We need to probably get.
It's not under any kind of maintenance. So you can check on that, but, We gotta not let that go, it's a whole lot of money. Boy, I think down the church, they want
Once that starts to bust it
$100,000
out,
to put in a new parking lot.
you're really good.
Okay, condition of town hall after board of review meeting and about refunding extra money to the renter. So I was unaware of this, Stephanie told me a little bit, so fill us in.
It was, she said filthy, she called me at home. She had to sweep it and mop it from the board of review.
That's entirely possible, there was probably drug.
Yeah, I mean, we had people in here. And I just felt that maybe we ought to give her a little more than just the 100. She had to clean it up before she
Right.
could use it. And after.
And, which is, after is expected, but
Right,
before is not.
not before.
Right. So, Megan gets $125 to clean the hall, doesn't she? So, yeah, if she'd be happy with some kind of a refund for having to do that versus having to pay to bring somebody in to clean it.
Is 25 enough?
I would think so. I don't know for sure. She didn't give me a price, but she said, something's gotta be done.
So I'll make a motion, we'll refund 125.
I'll support it.
So a motion made and supported to refund 25 extra for the cleaning to this individual. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Bids for our town hall and cemetery mowing.
Yes, we received bids from the gentlemen that are currently doing our cemetery and township.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Greg Holendahl, bid out he's gonna do Kirby and Hill cemeteries for $3,500. I suppose you guys are gonna ask me what we paid this year, and I can't remember off the top of my head. And then Chad Buell came in, is currently doing North Lawn and Township. He also put in a bid for Hill and Kirby. So for his existing, the North Lawn, 11,000, Township building, 2,000 a year. And then he bid 1,000 for Hill and 3,500 for Kirby. So Greg, with his total of 3,500 for Hill and Kirby, seems like the way to go.
Well, I make a motion that we accept
But-
bids for the two.
But do we need to take North Lawn Cemetery out to bid because it's over the 5,000?
I would say.
When do they normally start mowing?
And I wanted to put a bid in there, and he at one time has done the cemetery.
Okay.
Which is Denver.
Did you step out of the room right now?
No, he is
Still
the
in.
one
Okay.
that
Okay.
How much was Chad's bid?
For which?
Both.
Well, he's got North Lawn at 11,000, Hill for 2,000, Kirby for 3,500, and Township for 2,000.
So it's 13,000 if he doesn't get the other two.
Correct. And he was getting, I want to say 1,100 a month? Six. Do I have an easy way to look? I don't think I have an easy way to look right now.
So Greg Bonavide will do the two outlying cemeteries for 3,500.
Yeah.
And you made a motion, Pat?
Yes, I did.
Make a motion
Great.
for Greg.
Except Greg's on those two. I hear a second on that one?
Second.
Second, there, any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Opposed? That's carried. So now, back to North Lawn and Town Hall. So he bid them separate, we could accept the $2,000 bid, I believe, that's under.
Yeah, but do we want to separate Town Hall and?
Didn't you bid them separate?
You did, but
Danny, did you want to do the town hall or the cemetery?
I'd like to do the town hall.
Okay.
We did the cemetery before. The guy who does the cemetery does a good job.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't understand is why he gets, when he gets a bid, he should consider how much it's gonna cost him in fuel, but then to ask for more, later. Fuel adjustment, like he asked for,
What is it for North Lawn? What did he bid?
he bid 11 this year.
And what did we set aside for that? We put some, how much in the budget for that?
No. Let me tell you. I can pull it up. way, we're gonna have to take it out to bid. It's just a question of whether we want to separate out North Lawn and the township or leave them bundled together like we have in the past.
Well, it did used to be separate,
Prior to
because
next year.
Greg used to do this, the town hall.
I
Does
think,
that sound like a plan?
I think we, depends on the weather, you can start mowing in April, but if we have perfect growing conditions by May, it can start, we start to get tall, so.
Either way, we're above our 5,000.
On that one, with the town hall here, if we wait, there wasn't any bid put out, so we could, if Benny wants to put in a bid, we could probably wait till May, that's stretching it, I'm afraid. And we're gonna have to get an ad in the paper on the cemetery.
Did you put it in into this committee?
Oh, I didn't notice the 11,000.
I mean, we could, I guess, even though it's not a requirement by our resolutions, we could put this out for bid too. Or we accept that 2,000 and just, I don't know, I mean, if Denny wants to put one in, I guess that's acceptable, but these bids should be in right now.
We actually did not put out for bid, so there is no deadline that he could, so.
We can hold up, I guess, on this one, and we awarded Greg the other two.
I'm telling you, I'm getting ready to mow the school, so grass is tall.
So what do you want, a special meeting for it, or are we just gonna get it out to bid and decide and
I'd say
kick it
we-
off? Because Alex Nichols also wants to bid.
But
I don't know
it's been in.
what he wants to bid on, but
You better be asking, you know? But since that one came in that much, we better put that out to bid. you know,
yes.
on the cemetery.
I want a promotion to keep North Lawn and the township together.
Yeah,
I'm not opposed to that, I guess, if they wanna.
she made that a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion to keep North Lawn Cemetery and Township Building mowing together and get it out to bid ASAP to be decided at the May meeting.
Second on that motion?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
15,000 is what we had for total cemetery.
So we're looking at 18,000,500.
No.
No,
Or
cemetery.
16,000.
Cemetery is 11,000,
14,500.
35.
So just say what we did last year.
12,900.
14,500 plus 2.
But that's fine.
Okay, so he's at 13, so yeah, it's the same. That's what I was thinking, it was the same as last year.
You think it's for all the cemeteries?
Yes.
No, we didn't, he only did one.
No, but
This
that's the
is
cemetery
one
account.
contract For the cemetery, all the cemeteries.
Oh, okay, that would be his and Greg.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 13, or what was it, 14?
15 is what we had. 14,500
So
is
14,500, and then there'll be a separate line item in the general fund for the township hall. So I think it's coming in at the same. But,
Where we stand, we have a motion, we didn't have a second yet, correct?
I think they ought to be separated, but
let's vote on this motion and make a second motion then.
Or we-
If somebody wants to second.
Yeah, we don't have a second. If there is no second, it dies for lack of a second motion. So I'm inclined to keep them separate too. You bid them separate that way,
yeah,
and, but the question I guess would be, is do we want to include that in the ad? A bid on this?
I think we better in the event
Yes.
he doesn't want to take just the township
Okay.
mowing. So we'll just ask for two separate bids.
So we separate the bid on the other two, we already did,
Yeah.
and we'll bid out. Must be in, you know the language, right? You
Yeah.
have such and such time, we reserve the right to accept it.
Someone make a motion?
yes.
I'll support.
Second, any further discussion?
Looks like town hall, we budgeted 3,000 for mowing the town hall. Coming in, see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done a nice job too, in my estimation.
Very easy.
So any further discussion, motion in a second, to bid both of these out? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I will get that in the paper.
Very good. We're up to cemetery flags for Memorial Day.
Yes. Michelle texted today, she needs flags for the cemetery. She's asking for 2 boxes of flags, 10 medallions, so it looks like, I don't know what the total quantity is, but her price tag is looking like $474.88.
Make a motion to give that to
Pat, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We're down to election. We have a reply from the county clerk on the letter that we sent requiring the ballots taken from the basement. Sure I got the right one here. This was March 31st, this came in from Marty Cass. Dear Mr. Nichols, I have receipt of your letter dated February 14th, 2022, and that was signed only by me, but the board approved that as I recall. In reference to the letter from Jonathan Brader, Director of Elections, dated October 25th, 2021, to Stephanie Scott, who elected the clerk but has been removed from administering any elections held in Adams Township. On page 3 of the reference letter, it states, you, Stephanie Scott, are directed to provide immediate access to all election equipment and records, including tabulators, voter-assisted terminals, absent voter ballot applications, and ballot envelopes, and polling place materials to the Hillsdale County Clerk or her designee at a time and place specified by the county clerk or designee. With that said, I will direct you to contact Jonathan Brader, Director of Elections, if you have any further questions or concerns. Signed by Cass. So that is our response. Shifted the buck to the superiors, and didn't directly answer in regards to the 2020 ballots, which was election passed, but it's not named, but all the other things were items. So if there's no discussion, that is a response from the county. We have minute meetings from the election commission that was held on the 25th. I was never directly notified if this was happening. I was not in attendance. I double checked for emails, and I do not recall anyone reminding me or telling me that this was happening on this day. So I don't know how we're to approve something. I wasn't there, so I'm not going to vote on it. Pat was there, but she's one member. Marnie's not here. I don't know what we can do with these. They appointed necessary.
So the election commission is made up of the township supervisor, town clerk, and township treasurer. In light of this debacle, this year's election commission is made up of the county clerk, township treasurer, and township supervisor of this election commission meeting, which decides on and chooses the election inspectors for the upcoming election.
And as it stands, they have a quorum to approve these, so they can have their election. But they sent the minutes, Mark sent the minutes back here and said we were supposed to approve these. Well, I don't know how. So I'm just gonna let it go for right now. So take advice.
Be approved.
I wouldn't even think that the board would at a board meeting. You don't approve our board review meetings.
So it doesn't matter if we approve it or not, we're just gonna hold the elections anyways, right?
They've held their meeting and appointed them. The question would be, is some of us feel that with Marnie filling in, Stephanie's been robbed of her duties, but that being as it is, they've done this in order. It's just, I don't know how we approve minutes when we got just one member that was there. So.
I thought you knew about it. There was meetings posted,
Not till later, probably however many days beforehand.
2 days beforehand.
He's supposed to, as the election commission, find it on the door.
If I'm part of,
Everybody else has 2 meetings, they have to have on the
That's a
door.
little different
if
than being on
I'm
the
part of
election
the
commission.
meeting,
No,
it would
it's
seem
not,
like
it's
they
not,
might.
it's people that really need something that starts.
Order, this isn't public comment time yet. As part of the meeting, typically, I think I would have been advised via phone call, email, something. I wasn't. So, the fact remains, I wasn't there, and I'm not gonna vote to approve something that I wasn't there. It could be made up, I don't think it is.
Well, you have a choice to vote yes or no. It's up to you. If you don't wanna vote for it, you have a choice to vote no. It still should be put, still should be put to the township.
I would think
board
under the
as to
circumstances that
vote for.
Marty and Pat would have to vote on this.
And they did.
No, they just sent the minutes, approving the minutes. They voted on the issue. I'm
Right,
not-
and they
I'm
have
not
the election
contesting that.
commissioners.
I'm just saying, I don't know how I deal with the minutes. And I don't recall that we've ever dealt with minutes of any election commission in this board meeting.
We didn't since I've been.
We didn't?
No,
Okay.
we did it in March.
In
the three
fact,
of
at
us.
prior times, I was told I didn't even need to be at those. When Michelle was clerk,
Yeah, that's a
I
little
asked, do I need to be there? No.
That's a little- So I wonder who signed it
We
then.
never had a supervisor in any of those.
Yeah, so how did that ever how did it get signed? It wasn't even the election commission. The
They were
Township
told,
Election
and,
Commission.
I mean, when Fred was there, Bruce was there. They never showed up.
Well, if you have a quorum, that's one thing. So, Michelle may have known any different, I didn't know any different, so that is a.
There are for you.
So that, yep, FOIA from Reuters. Stephanie, do you want to start?
No, well, I received a FOIA request from Reuters. 3/14, I think sounds right.
When?
March 14 was prior to this, the day of that last commission meeting, in which, there were requests for all documentation. It was dated March 14. 28 different names of people potentially contacted. They wanted anything and all my personal emails and communications, anything that mentioned election fraud, election concerns, wanted everything. I sent a letter back denying that I was going to send anything with 7 statutes cited, and now they are appealing that decision. So,
So they're appealing it to me. I got this, 8, I think.
7th. Might have come out here.
It probably came 7th, I didn't see it till the 8th. I think that's what I saw. it pretty
This
promptly.
month?
Correct.
Yes. So I reached out to Mr. Fink over the weekend, because this is something that I have never done. I don't have direct access to records. They're asking for a whole lot. So he made a pretty lengthy response, which I can share with you. This response was only to me at this point, but can be forwarded to some of the rest if you need. You can see it. And he cited some of the law and what have you. His opinion is that you can't just blanket say no, but there are exceptions, like we don't have to divulge any of our attorney-client relations, that's not foiable. So there are certain exceptions, and I think much of what they asked for, of what I looked at it, there hasn't been any contact. You know, they say, like she said, 28 different names, people all over the country. Stephanie's talked to those kind of people, and if she talked to them on her own dime, her own time, I don't see that has anything to do with the township.
Given the fact there's a pending lawsuit, given the fact that there are alleged criminal charges pending against me, that's all the further comment I will make. My attorney is reviewing it. I'm happy to take any questions, and once she's done reviewing it, we'll provide a statement to accommodate your questions.
Okay, so is she reviewing this appeal at all? Oh, okay.
Actually, it's involved.
So, I intend with Mr. Fink to do due diligence as the township is in regards, but hopefully Stephanie and I and other attorneys can also work on this and we'll reply. Mr. Fink did say that the law says, let me find it, I hope I marked it. Here it is right here. It appears that the best response to the appeal is to grant the request in part and to say that the request will be fulfilled when staff time permits. An explanation that the township will need to identify and, I think you might be a typo, evaluate records and then provide a cost estimate for labor and copying costs will bring the township closer to compliance with the statute. The Michigan Attorney General has opined that a request must be granted but not necessarily fulfilled within statutory timelines. So the request is very extensive. Mr. Fink has indicated that this will be a big project. It will take a lot of time to search for and evaluate the records requested. So I'm just letting you know that this has transpired, that I've contacted him, that I will be probably getting back with him tomorrow, but talking with Stephanie too, I didn't know that your attorney would be still working on this. So it's my intention to do the lawful thing that the township is required to do in regards to the FOIA. But I would suggest, as I was trying to say before, that there's a lot asked for that I just don't think is even there. So we just have to get proper explanation of denial. So that's where that stands. If you want to know any more, you're with me.
Well, I don't feel that she should be talking to our township lawyer
She
regarding
has-
FOIA.
She has.
I thought that's what she said. Okay.
No. I understood her to say that her attorney is still working on this,
Right.
because her attorney helped her with an answer to this. But you're still the clerk, and you can still.
Should still have access to our township attorney.
But not on personal matters.
No.
Well, it's not a personal matter.
Well,
No,
I feel
you
like
gotta
the
understand.
A lot of this is a lot of personal.
This is not a personal matter.
No, but I
Whatever
feel like,
records the township has in regards to this, unless it's protected with attorney-client or some other law, they're due.
I get that. But I was also told that if the FOIA request is denied, that they're gonna get their attorneys involved.
Not right off the bat, they've appealed it. If I thumb my nose at them, yeah, we'll probably be headed for court.
Okay, let me ask you, and I'm not saying that you will, which
No.
would be
I've
probably
already
detrimental.
indicated that's not my intention.
Good. On her personal matters, that's fine. Anything dealing with the township itself should be dealt with on our basis, but personal, we shouldn't be responsible for.
No, I don't believe so either.
And if the lawsuit comes out of this, and we are being sued, I don't think the township should have to be responsible for that. I don't know where the money would come from.
Well, let's
I don't
see
think
how- let's see
anybody
how
that
this
lives in
plays
this
out.
township should have to pay.
If we answer them properly, there's probably no reason for us to sue.
Well, that's not what he told me, so.
And you can get yourself into this situation at any time. You talk to Reuters directly? You wanna share any of that? Is that
He
something
just
we should know?
emailed me some stuff, and if you want me to print it off, I'd be more than happy to print it off
Love
for
to
you.
see what you got from
But,
lawyers.
you know, the problem is that, you know, I think this thing got was completely out of hand.
I think you should provide that to the township, just like I have this. You know, this was just Saturday. I think that he responded to me, and I printed this off for you today to let you know what's what. So I think if Reuters has contacted you directly on township stuff, I would think the township should be aware of it. So, but as long as we're working towards in good faith doing the right thing, I think we'll be okay.
Wait a minute, can I ask a question? If you want him to provide what Reuters has told him, why aren't you asking her to provide what she needs to through the FOIA? Why isn't it done already? They already asked for FOIA, why aren't they done?
If they're asking for FOIA things that involve the township, I think they're doing it. If they're asking for personal, if Reuters just called Randy and talked, he doesn't need to provide that to us. But if
You
these,
just asked him to.
if it involves the township, if they're inquiring, I don't know what they
He
asked.
didn't inquire anything about it, he just was notifying me that you denied his FOIA request.
Okay,
And that he had to go through Mark, and he has anticipated that Mark would probably deny. And then he said that if that happened, then they would be, have to get attorneys involved. And that could be into tens of thousands of dollars.
well, let's not,
And that's what
cross
I'm
the
just,
bridge
that's what he
before
told
we
me.
get there.
So
I intend
if
on
you want me to
answering
print that off and bring it to you, that's fine.
Okay, well,
But that's exactly
maybe
what.
that's not necessary, I don't know, do you think that needs to
Just
be on
saying.
township record?
I just merely wanted to know, you know,
Talking
and
to you
I,
as a board member, yeah, I think it should be, but
well,
what you want?
I'm just saying that as a board member and as a member of the township, that, you know, this stuff is getting way out of hand.
Sure is.
And, you know,
But if
as a,
somebody
member of the township. and
Somebody
as a member of
FOIA
the board.
something, Randy, they have the right, they have the right to FOIA. And if it happens to cost some money, it does. I mean, you didn't have any qualms about spending some money in some other areas. So.
Yeah, I get that. I don't want to spend.
Nor supporting our clerk in this, so the clerk is on her own dime standing up for liberties and freedom. And I will stand up for her when I believe she's right and when I believe the law allows me to be in
But I don't think you have
the
the
position
right.
that she's, if I may finish, so that people know what I'm trying to say. If the law allows me, like, attorney confidentially, I'm gonna tell him no too. But I'm gonna do it with the advice of FINK, representing the township.
Right, okay, only on township matters.
Yeah, I don't think they have any right. If Stephanie's emailed, texted, whatever on her own, she can do what she wants there.
Right.
The township isn't doing the suit, she personally is.
She is.
And keep in
It's-
mind, there is a pending lawsuit, that makes a big difference also.
It does make some difference, I believe.
But I don't want people in the township to be stuck with a huge lawyer bill because of this nonsense.
So what do you do?
Well,
We're here,
where are we at?
we're here, we have a FOIA.
Right,
And
so
if
it's
he's
up to
not
you to
happy.
decide whether you're gonna deny it or you're gonna approve
No, I
it.
didn't say that at all, you put the words in my mouth, I said that as the law, I'll work with the township attorney and Stephanie to try to fulfill this as necessary under the law.
As long as it pertains to township, yes.
Right.
And that, no.
I don't want to divulge information that doesn't belong to the township, doesn't pertain to the township, that's none of their business. If Stephanie wants to tell them personally, that's her business.
Right. So you'll be distinguishing the difference.
Well, I'll be working with Fink and whoever. This is something that I haven't done before, okay? I've applied for a couple of FOIAs in my life. I've never filled one, especially one that's extensive, so it is what it is, and we gotta deal with it.
Okay. Now, I'm done with that. I think that the township board should be kept appraised of all the stuff.
Well, that's why I've told you this. And this has been sent to the county too, you mentioned that. The county commissioners at least, so. No, you just, if you're privy to this information that comes from the attorney. In fact, I'll probably
If
have
you
to
want to
Stephanie
see,
so
well,
she
if
can
you
put
put
it
a
in
copy of
there.
the FOIA in response.
I got a copy.
So, any discussion on the Hart Intercivic Skate Contract?
Yeah. Why hasn't that bill been paid? Why didn't we pay for the new tabulator? We haven't been billed. Oh, we did? We signed a paper for it? Have we not been paid or been billed?
You signed a purchase agreement and an invoice was emailed to the whole entire board in March.
And I have a copy of that also. So why haven't we paid that?
I don't believe it was emailed to you before the last meeting, so it would be approved to pay this meeting.
This meeting?
This would be the first meeting from Hart and Civic.
Any other email addresses?
Because I have a copy of that also on my email. You?
Oh, I do have it, I apologize, I was not doing it. I write the check tonight.
Yes, thank you.
You bet. Oops, shit.
discussion?
she's gonna.
I'll write the check afterwards. I missed it.
Invoice.
No votes need to be taken.
Already been approved.
We're on to the first election certificate update. We're still finishing up there.
No, we should be done with the.
What's that?
So last line item, did you touch
Oh,
on
no,
this
you
election
guys,
certificate?
it was brought up at the last,
Certification update?
sorry, it was brought up at the last meeting that I wasn't fully certified to run elections. So I went back to pull the proof on it. I don't know if any of you guys have done any of this online classes. They usually give you a little thing that tells you what to do and whatever, but I obviously was certified at the time to run an election and 2/1/21. And then I sent a letter, I saw a notification that there was additional training. Here's a copy of the email requesting or asking what's required because nothing was showing up. And he told me which one, so that's completed. And I knew I had a lot more classes, so when I went in and looked at them, a lot of times when you do the classes, you gotta watch the whole slide and listen to it. And then at the very end, there's one button to finish it. Well, apparently I had about 7 classes that it didn't finish me on, so you'll see if anybody wants these. Here's my certificates of proof. So I have 8 hours of the training through the Michigan Bureau of Elections. Most of them show completed on 3/21, but it's because I went back in after the last board meeting. So I've got 8 hours of the training online in addition to the elections.
So when were you issued that? When were you issued that?
Well, I had to complete a certain number of classes in order to be qualified.
When were you issued that?
Issue what?
That certificate?
Of completion of all this?
Yes.
Right after the last board meeting, that's what I'm saying, when I went in to look. I obviously was fully credentialed in order to run the previous election in March, and then some election continuation showed up on the net newsletter December. I emailed them, my completion date is on that one, and apparently I have no idea what triggers it, but when I went and hit a finish button on 7 other classes, then there was a final certification. So it's very unclear what, but there's 8 hours, it's completed. Nothing ever showed up in that time other than what's in newsletters that comes on email, so.
Okay, you still haven't answered our question. When were you issued that certificate that you had completed your election certification?
I obviously have one to run the March election.
Did you don't have that with you? You should have it right.
Which one is it? Can you tell me which class it is? Initial accreditation certificate, 2/1/21, right here.
Okay, then you weren't certified for 2020.
I didn't run the 2021. I didn't run anything until March of 2021. I did not run the November election. I ran March of 2021. I got full access. It was a scramble to get in and get up and running on my very first election here. So the date on that was 2/1/21. Access to QBF, ran the March election, no issues. Then an email came out in a newsletter saying there was an additional class. It wasn't clear from the website what it was, so I emailed the Bureau of Elections. He gave me which class, which one it was called. That was completed on time by 12/30/2021. At that point, that was all that I was told was required. But I had already completed a bunch of classes, but apparently the system didn't take them as complete. So these additional certificates that you see that were total 8 hours were completed just in the last couple of weeks, but trust me, they were done a lot quicker. I didn't do them all in one day. So I have 8 hours through the Michigan Bureau of Elections in addition to the election inspector training that you gave me.
So you wasn't fully certified until you got it.
I have been fully certified the entire time. I ran the March election.
That doesn't mean you were completely certified.
Yes, or I would not have gotten into the state database. That is pending. The whole access to QBF is getting through the certification classes. So yes, I was. I ran the election in March of 2021 legally because I had access. Now, whatever happened, and I was fully certified up through December 31st as well. I have no idea what that system is doing, but here's the proof if you guys want to take it. So you can see that I have been going through all the training is required and probably a little bit more than most first-year pros.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good on that one? We're ready for the bills.
Bills. I have submitted them in front of you. I will add on a $5,500 hard check as soon as I get out of here. So it totals the general fund at $43,601.89.
I'm back with that.
$43,601.89. Plus the the 1759.70 for the Q1 FICA filings. So total in general fund is $45,361.59. That number is large because it's the payment for the village fire contract, 24.8, I think it was. So $45,361.59 and $600 for the cemetery.
We have a motion to pay the bills.
I make a motion.
We have a couple, I don't know who was in first. I don't know, I think Stephanie passed all set.
I'll take it and you pass in a second.
All right. All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. Just some quick announcements. On the solar farm that's been applied for, the Powell solar farm, I'm in kind of discussion with Think again. I'm in quandary on the zoning because it's not really covered in the zoning. But they made application for the zoning. They want to abide by the rules. They built their project in compliance, I believe, with the proposed solar ordinance that we have, the draft. And Think has discovered a spot that we're checking on in the zoning that says if they're a public service entity or a public service commission, I believe that's the word, that they don't need a permit. So they're checking with, it is in the zoning, but it's just like.
Is it public service?
I didn't bring that language, yeah, like a public service provider. They named a whole bunch of like transmission lines and, you know, like your power companies, your phone companies, they don't need a permit. Public service.
Well, then why did consumers have to pay for the windmills?
Well, they didn't build them, but they bought them after they were built.
All right.
That's probably a good point. So they're checking with the parent company on that, so that's where that stands right now. Right, because the contact person that I and the attorney are talking to is the engineering firm that put this whole package together for the owner of the project. And it's the parent company's covered along the mortgage. So that's where that stands right now, we're just waiting for some answers. Because I don't know, since they wanted to apply, if they just pay $15 fee or if they go through a special use, or if this other clause is applicable, I guess they don't pay anything. Refund them, send them back the check they gave me. So that's that. On the St. Joseph River, the Maumee drain, I advised you of the meeting that was happening, I think it was the 7th, it was this last Thursday. The map you have is the district. It's no sweat for a year because it was turned down. The district is large. If the work wasn't extensive, the price would probably be small because it's spread out over so many properties. Over 60,000 acres. So since I went to that meeting, Darrell was there, I saw Bruce Caswell there, a couple of other members of our township were there. The determination board did turn it down 2-1, so it's another year before anybody can apply for the same project. So just a report on that. And then I want to make you aware of a commissioners meeting tomorrow morning in which Bob Godfrey from the Road Commission will discuss the status of the Hillsdale County gravel roads. I heard this, didn't even hear it completely on the news this morning, so I stopped by the radio station today and picked this up. So that's tomorrow. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock. There's going to be 4 reports, not from the road, there's 3 others. Nick Wheeler, equalization report, Terry Beer on renewal of the millage for the senior center, and Troy, I don't know how I say last name, Real, from the ISD will speak on the upcoming ISD special education millage. But the one that I'm most interested in is hearing what Bob has to say about our gravel road. So that's 9 o'clock. It's in the county building at 33 McCollum. That's all I have for that. Anything new on the recreation, Jason?
No.
Okay, thank you. And any other announcements or other items? I skipped clerk's notes or announcements. Did you have anything there, Stephanie?
This was received, it's planning and zoning for solar energy systems. If you guys want to look at it, I would like to see it when we're done. A couple other just letters that came in the park plan. Did you get this on my desk? Or was it right away at this? What was this?
receipt, this is the property, this is the receipt for when I dropped off those copies to the United States
Oh.
Department of Agriculture. She thought I was,
Them.
yeah.
And then one last one, received in the mail from the Township of Waugh Blank, Mackinac County, Michigan. They're, passed a resolution to urge the Michigan legislature to adopt certain exemptions and exceptions for rural and sparsely populated townships, cities, and villages with a population under 500 persons regarding the qualifications for various public boards, committees, councils, bodies, and commissions to amend the Michigan Opens Meeting Act to allow limited remote attendance at such public meetings. So they are asserting that in some of the small communities, it's sometimes necessary for people to hold dual positions, if they're on fire departments and boards and stuff, and so they made a motion or a resolution on that, so if anyone wants to read that. I think it's just advising everybody that they realize it.
They're really asking for support. What did I say?
What should we, support, I suppose.
Did you know any kind of time on this, as far as what's deadline? Maybe we can look at that, and same thing we want to support, we can address it at the next meeting, if that's what they're asking for. Okay, that's all we have, open the floor for public comment again. Al?
After they're, either building or you're gonna write a check thank for it. Is it shipped out yet, or is it, even, are we gonna have it for the vote?
The board members do, or anybody wants to address that?
Yep, we have it.
You have it? Okay.
Marty?
Was this meeting required to be announced in the Hillsdale Daily News? No?
No, the other meeting, the planning commission was, the public hearing was held on that. It just has to be, it has to go in the paper, what the change was.
Were the surrounding landowners of 5500 State Road supposed to be notified?
No, I don't, do not believe so, but they were again for the planning commission. Yeah, well, to my knowledge.
I haven't seen anything about this in the paper.
Right.
That's why I'm the only one over here. Who is our township attorney?
Our township attorney, James Fink, Ypsilanti.
When will the minutes from this meeting be available?
Well, we won't approve until next meeting. So I don't know if I send them out in draft form.
Yeah, I think you could.
I guess in draft. Need about a week to get through it.
I'm sorry.
I need about a week. I'll try to get it final soon though.
Okay. So the zoning ordinance for industrial, you folks voted in favor.
That's right.
You put the factory in without an all-season road, there's no site plan.
No, that's, when they bring their plan, I believe it is, it's special use site plan, it is the site plan that they have to do as part of the overall application.
There's setback has not been met, but Marv will take care of that.
Right.
You know, the surrounding landowners' rights have been ignored throughout this. We will file a letter of intent for a public petition for a public referendum. Within 7 days, it'll be shown up in the Hillsdale paper. Mark, you said in the Hillsdale County Planning Commission, zoning is not just about property values, a man's home is his castle, quote. You could have fooled me.
Let me ask you a question, Marty.
Sure.
Does that man's home being a castle have the right to control other person's castles? I have an old friend that said the hardest part of being free is letting the neighbor be free.
Sounds like you had that all figured out, didn't you?
I'm sorry?
Sounds like you had that one all figured out.
Marty, I've addressed the zoning is why I'm in office.
Really?
That's correct. I'm against it. On a city road, maybe that's a different setting. There's a whole lot about zoning that is just wrong. Now, if you take some of it, it may not be a bad suggestion, you know, because I read through zoning from time to time, it's like, okay, most situations, that's probably a good idea. And I'm not against trying to encourage people to have a better community, but I see the zoning usually plots people against people. It's happened in this case.
I feel about resident over here.
I'm sorry?
I feel protocol hasn't been followed here.
Well, I don't know where you feel we might be lacking. I think we've certainly tried to. And you've done, in my estimation, an admirable job of defending your rights under this. Huh?
Not done yet.
Well, and that's your prerogative. There's other, protocol that you can pursue and follow.
But what do you feel wasn't followed? What protocol do you feel wasn't followed?
You voted tonight with an unresolved issue over the setback. You're still on that, and yet you voted on it.
Well,
There it is, it's not that.
Does that need to be?
I don't know.
I don't know what it does. I don't know. I mean, there's so many fine points like this. I guess if you want to spend the money to litigate, I'm not encouraging that, but that's your right. But Mark's already indicated that he's gonna fix that setback one way or the other.
They go on that first name basis.
You know, if he doesn't, I can bring a violation against him, okay? The township can do that under zoning, if it's a violation of zoning. I don't know, Marty. If you got anything there, and if you wanna pursue it, that's fine. I mean, that's your right. And that's just another reason why I'm against zoning. We stick our fingers in this as a township, choosing favorites, whomever, and we get caught in the middle. It's a whole lot of stinking work, number one. And you try real hard to do it, follow the book and what have you a lot. And this is what we run into. I don't like living under this bondage. That's why I got in government. Any other comment?
Now this is make her, Stephanie put herself in that position.
I think she was. That's my opinion.
I don't think she was, so.
And you had your right to your opinion.
Absolutely. I have something to say about that. Stephanie's not robbed of her duties. She was robbed of her duties. She had not failed any decree, had not missed any deadline. And they came down to the state and put the thumb of the big boy on her head.
That's unfair, Janice. That's unfair. It's not accurate. Who else? There are 911 guys.
Yes, good point. We have it from, the township is the only one that has signed said contract. So I do not have a signed copy of the contract.
I'll just drop it at the end of the
Okay. Also, it is dated April 1st that this agreement goes into effect. Dispatch any agreement until April 4th. And unfortunately, we have 90 days to change things because it's not a simple flip of a switch. There's telephone service providers that need to be notified. We have CAD updates we have to do and mapping updates we have to do. So we have 90 days from the time we are notified until that change takes effect. So I'm not refusing to do it. It's just our process. We have to have 90 days to get everything in order.
So it's a continuation of what was, and the contract actually reads that if we time, which in this instance you didn't get notified in time, or we did it in time, automatically continues.
Well, the current.
So if we read one at all, it automatically continues.
Well,
two sections, I suppose.
yeah. So that's where we run into the problem, is the area that Jefferson Township is currently covering. So at this point, we will continue to dispatch Jefferson Township until we get everything in place.
And I expect that if there's a controversy, you know, it'll be in good faith, that the board might cover Jefferson in some respect for that. Should that happen?
Sorry. Who would you get this from? Yeah, after I signed it? Or
After
not I, but-
after Mark signed it.
Okay. And
But
so,
I'm sorry, Stephanie, let's have your signature on here as well.
so Rick and Kathy.
Dated 3/14/22.
Right, and so I just got the signed copy back from the village dated 4/7. would you normally get the fully signed copy? This is the fully,
Yes.
with those guys too.
Yeah, I need a full second copy, otherwise, to me, it's not legal.
So I'll get you that tonight. But would you from the village or from the board here tonight? And I did.
Because I'm in my position, so I don't know whose responsibility it is to get it to us.
We didn't know
I
that.
would assume between the village and you, I would get it from the village, because that's who your contract is.
I would think it'd be from the village.
And I had notified Jefferson via email that we would not be continuing those two sections.
Okay.
I don't know if they forwarded that out to you, and that was,
I have not received anything in my office from them, so if you could provide that to me, and provide me a signed copy with both signatures, I'm more than happy to get the ball rolling.
okay, yeah. I'll walk you
Thank you
through.
for coming and advising us of that, that's one of those things that we didn't know.
So
And I guess-
we rated the same issue down with, city reading, they contracted with Montgomery Fire Rescue, all the sort of medical in there. This actually left out of it until almost the last part of it, so that had to read them almost 2 months.
And when you say delayed, what does that mean? Just the
From the time
contract?
they got all their signatures and everything we needed,
Yeah.
and so we were able to start the process, it was about 2 months before we could even start the process.
Did it affect their fire coverage?
No, just their medical response, because they, I mean, RU in there and responded to all medicals no matter what, because their contract is already. But Montgomery Fire Rescue contracted with the city of Reading to provide medical first responders, kind of like your fire department does for the township. But the way that happening for like 2 months.
So if we hadn't made a change as far as those 2 and 2.5 sections, I think, it would have been as big of a deal.
Not only change.
Gotcha. Okay, well, if we can remember that whenever this scenario might happen again in 20 years or whatever. Because we've had that other arrangement for a long, long time. Jefferson built their new department, and it was like, you know, they were just down the road from those sections.
I get that, I just want to bring it to your attention. So.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Maybe need to know they got a copy of the fire contract.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
Who else?
I got one comment. We did some revisions on the zoning, did we not?
Working on it. Pretty much done.
Pretty much?
We have a new, chair, Chad French.
Yeah, it's in the chair.
So Daryl pretty much completed it. We have a list of the changes that we made.
There's a list of changes, we just have to put them in the book.
When can we get those?
Well, they'll be submitted to you, to this board for approval. So I guess we're not quite ready yet, probably, well, we'll be working on solar now.
Solar next, gotta get that done.
And your meeting has to be changed. It can't be May 3rd, there's an election here.
I thought,
So I need to talk to you, Chair.
I thought we've been working on that since we got in.
We work on it for probably a year, every month.
And I'm telling you, until you work with it, you don't realize the scope of everything. Is if you're to do this right, you gotta look things over with a fine tooth.
Yes, you
comb.
do.
Just about
It's
affects every part of your property that you own.
Everything. That's why we got in here to fix.
Well, the nuisance ordinance was the biggie, but the zoning, at least as it was written, and from my perspective, doesn't really matter how it's written if they're telling me how to live on my land in the country.
It takes a simple motion and resolution to do away with zoning.
Public hearing.
Public hearing. But then it can be gotten rid of. I'm just saying.
Final comment? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
heard the message and I figured I should call them next.
Adjourn. Thank you for coming, folks.